Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Moon Harvest, Amish Earther, Naughty Thumbnails, Mitch Kennedy, Original D Rose, Rod the Name's Burley, Twad Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, Flat Earth Travolta, JMels24, Unimento, M Iron26, Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Goldie McKinnon, Retro Bill, More Books, Canna Bear, Fiber Oats, Bogey, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Mel B Styles, Harry Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Nealand, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, Tina Baker, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. Got there in the end. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
That's why you might have missed it. It's just a 30-second clip.
Well, no, actually, there isn't. There's more to it than that. So, in total, it's probably about 5 minutes. But the 30-second clip was just him talking about how, when I sent that clip to you and said, "Oh, listen to this statement," I appreciate that it's completely out of context for what we're discussing. They're discussing acoustics and they're discussing the bureaucracy of something very specific. So, in that instance, the background to that, obviously, is, as I've just said, not relevant to us, but just so you understand the background, he's saying that he's built this underground or whatever concrete bunker, and it's got 4 feet thick concrete walls because he wants it to be completely isolated, right? He's an acoustician. So when he goes to get it certified or put through the regulators, they say to him, it's not fireproof. The walls aren't fireproof. We would have to consider these walls as though they are wood. They're going to have to cut a window in for it to meet regs. And he's like, no, I'm not going to breach my my 4 foot thick concrete wall because you say that it's not fireproof. So what he explains is that what is fireproof is a 1 foot thick concrete wall. But because the bureaucracy isn't such that they specifically say that, well, if 1 foot is fireproof, then obviously 4 foot is fireproof, but they don't say that. so it's not fireproof because it doesn't specifically say that 4 foot thickness is classified as fireproof. So it's like, so I didn't, that's the bureaucracy. And I haven't actually said the specific thing that I got you to listen to because I want him to say it, and I want you to, if you haven't heard it, react to it when he says it in terms of how the world kind of is and how that does directly relate, with that being the background for him, to us when we're talking about the world believing that they're on a sphere, and how once you've got the notion of how incorrect that is, it takes a long time for that to change. I mean, in his example, he's got the various different governing bodies of the acousticians, and he's saying that when we change something in the field because it's practically better, it takes about 10 years for them to catch up. Again, he gives a more specific example about how the acousticians do their measurements, and that is semi-translatable into what we do also, so I'm not going to give that example. I'll, again, just let John Brandt's guest, whose name eludes me, he's obviously a very, very clued up acoustician, and I've never come across him before. But John Brandt's one of my favourite acousticians. He's like top 3 easily, in terms of the best of the best people out there doing this stuff. That I know of. I'm sure there's good people out there. But anyway, he's had him on as a guest, and they're just chit-chatting back and forth. But after I sent you that message, sorry to give you such a long preamble, he starts talking about gravity and saying, oh, in the same way, it'd be like if you went to some scientist and told him that there wasn't a law of gravity. You know, you'd just float away. And I was like, oh, this is gold. I can actually use this on the show now with justification. So it's like happy days and overlap from acoustics to flat Earth. Whoa, this has never happened before. Oh, at least it's one of my favourites. So I can be sincere when I'm like, look, if you're actually interested in making audio sound better, so if you're watching this and you're flatsoid, you know, you're a videographer, you know, John Brandt is a guy that you'd pay attention to. Don't get me wrong, every word that any acoustician says ever has $100 price ticket to it for every second sentence. You know what I mean? It goes up in hundreds for every few seconds you spend in their company. But there we go. That's such his life, isn't it? But anyway, I've learned a huge amount from that particular acoustician, along with several others who I'm not going to mention now. But yeah, it's good to talk about somebody that you like and have spent many hours listening to.
Is that the first time you've seen worlds collide like that? Like, I see it collide all the time. Like, things in my hobby. Usually there's something FE related every now and then
All the
that kind of
time.
connects it.
No, I'm not saying it doesn't. I mean, what I'm saying is typically it annoys me. So normally when this sort of thing happens, it's at the moment I'm watching stuff on self protection. So people who are being held up at gunpoint and what they do to get around that, or police reacting to it. And the show, the YouTube channel, Active Self Protection, tends to just stick to their guns. Excuse the pun. Which is to say that they do what they do. They're not going to suddenly say, if they do mention gravity, it's because someone's fallen over and they're just applying their general notions of mass of a solid or a water-based mass falling through air. They call that gravity. I'm not going to have any gripes with that. But what actually happens is you end up listening to, I don't know, Thunderfoot, because he's debunking claims of idiots, and then you come across him spouting nonsense about planets and orbits and stuff, and you're like, oh, bloody hellfire. I'm only watching this for a bit of escapism. You know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't seem to matter what I watch. It's always got an overlap. They'll always start, you know, watching true crime, and the next thing you know, they're babbling on about how flat earthers are idiots. You're like, what? You're responding to a crime story. Or it does, like I say, it doesn't matter. Dating, same thing. It doesn't matter. All of these things that I've looked at, I don't watch necessarily because I've got any particular interest in gun protection. We're not allowed to have guns here in this country. I mean, you are to a certain extent. I mean, I have shot and used guns when my folks lived on a farm, but that's slightly different. But if you're average Joe for self-protection, no, you don't carry firearms in this country for that purpose. So it's got literally no usefulness to me either. But it's just an interesting watch. You know, watching police chase around. You can imagine the appeal, right? But I'm not trying to get some flat Earth material out of it. And if they started covering it, which they probably bloody will, at some point they'll start slagging us off. They always do. So I'm not saying that I wasn't not expecting this to happen, but it just hasn't. And when it does, it's often not worthy of a response. Whereas in this instance, you've got this guy representing Joe Normality, moaning about how bureaucracy gets in the way of what he calls science. It actually isn't. And his example is gravity. So you're like, oh, well, this is great. I'll cover this.
I got you now.
I do like the idea of bureaucracy saying that the minimum amount of concrete to be fireproof is 1 foot, but since it's not 1 foot, it's not fireproof, even though it's 4 foot. I like that.
Yeah. When he said he was discussing it with the regulators, or the people who've got to certify his building and are telling him to cut a bloody great big hole in it, they're like, if it's not a foot thick, we have to consider it as wood. In other words, it could just burn you to death.
How do people mug each other in the UK?
How do people mug each other?
How do you mug someone with no gun?
Well, the couple of times I've been mugged in the UK, I've been mugged at knife point.
That's pathetic.
Yeah, when I was an idiot kid and would refuse, in spite, I'd call their bluff. Twice. Didn't mean I kept hold of my stuff. I did get a kicking for it. But while I was, in one particular instance, right, because I know how to respond to bullies generally, I learned at a very early age. And in this particular instance, right, they'd mugged us, and I'd given them a bit of pushback. No, get lost. You know, so nobody stabbed me, but they could tell that I wasn't just going to do whatever they told me to, because I put up a bit of resistance. Now, that is definitely not how I'd behave now. I was a stupid kid. But after they'd mugged us, me and I think it was 4 or 5 friends who'd come down from, or they had come down to Birmingham from Stratford,
This is
where
a
I lived.
multiple mugging?
But hold on, just let me get to the end of the story. So they were demanded by the muggers to get on the train tracks because we were at a train station. And they did, my mates. I'm like, what are you doing? Again, I'm like, no. You think I'm going to put my life at risk by train because you haven't got the balls to actually stab me? You know, you've got our wallets, you've got mine by force. Now you think I'm going to jump on a train track because you tell me to? It's like, no, the level of compliance, has a limit. But for my friends, they were just 100% compliant to the point where they literally jumped on the train tracks at the behest of people on a live train track, at the behest of some muggers that had already got their stuff off them, and me, reluctantly. Anyway, but yeah, knife point.
You'd probably just get laughed at in Texas.
Is Texas an open carry state?
It is the open carry state.
Right. So, yeah, I don't know which state I was in when I got directions from somebody, but you quickly realise the guy's pointing out the directions with a handgun, and you're like, oh.
You go over yonder, over there, pointing with
the
a
rep had to
revolver.
explain it to me. It's like, no, that's how it's supposed to be. I'm like, shouldn't it be, put somewhere else? And no, that's illegal. That's concealed carry. No. Open carry's fine. So I'm like, so you're saying it's okay for him to walk around waving a handgun? It's like, yeah, well, now you know what he's packing, right? You know
Probably
not to mess with him.
brandishing it, but it can be exposed to the public, like on your hip or on a shoulder. There is no problem with that, but that's only in Texas. Everywhere else they have conceal, but here in Texas you could literally walk around like Yosemite Sam with 2 revolvers in your belt.
Yeah, I mean, I gathered that from this active self-protection channel. There's various the law, however, in terms of what you can do, what's considered tolerable as lethal force, which is shooting somebody in any respect, doesn't seem to vary massively from state to state.
There has been multiple occasions here at a famous burger restaurant where people get shot over, missing cheese on a hamburger.
I'm sure, and I'm sure that person ends up in jail.
Well.
In any event, let's change the subject.
Well,
how'd you like those reviews of the TikToks?
Again, John?
I was just going to say I'm still getting over the 1 foot is fireproof, but 4 foot is not. 4 foot's wood. That's still messing with me.
Well, maybe we can get a bit of this to guy in the pre-show, because his sentiment isn't necessarily flat Earth related directly, but we can discuss it if we've heard it. But then when we get to the juicy bit about gravity, obviously that's directly related to the live show. That said, it's only about 3 or 4 minutes total, so I can't imagine we wouldn't get through all of it. But we'll just have a little listen, okay? I'll also check the sound levels while we do this.
Hey Nathan, you want to do well, those TikTok ones are fairly short. I don't know. I think those are pretty good for the channel, but who knows?
Thanks, Gene.
Say it, but the standards committees, as a rule, are there to maintain consistency, whether it actually is factual or not.
Lowest common denominator.
Okay, I've sort of started it right at the actual quote, so maybe I should go back a couple of seconds. So there's at least a little bit of a lead into what he just said. Timestamped it with comments, with my own comments. See, I've left a few comments. My comment.
What video is this?
I'll introduce it in a sec. Sorry, I should have done that. So in this, I was like 4 minutes 30. Never has a more true statement been uttered. Right, that's what he's about to say. Just have a listen.
And the problem is they usually run about 10 years behind what's going on in the world. Because I hate to say it, but the standards committees, as a rule, are there to maintain consistency, whether it actually is factual or not.
Standards committee is there to maintain consistency, whether it's factual or not. Right? That's the world we live in, the world of consensus. Is it right? It doesn't matter. Everything has to remain stable and consistent. So if we were on a ball, we've got to remain on a ball. Good.
That's a description of peer review.
Yeah.
That's a description of tyranny.
That also, yeah. There's a lot of things summed up into one statement there, right there. I'm going to play it one more time.
A description of professional compliance.
Yeah.
That's a description of what people will put under over the past few years.
But they're accredited.
So now you have to worry about the standards groups like the ISO and ASTM, that they upgrade and update their standards. And the problem is they usually run about 10 years behind what's going on in the world. Because I hate to say it, but the standards committees, as a rule, are there to maintain consistency, whether it actually is factual or not.
Lewis.
So worth having that as a bit of a preamble. So yes, I should introduce who that is. That's John Brandt. Now, John Brandt's an acoustician who I've followed for many years now. Very, very, very wise guy. I don't know who the guy he's talking to is. I'm sure it says in his description.
Mic check.
Yo, that's the Jabba the Hutt dude from Star Wars.
Hey.
I hear you, Neil.
When you
Hey.
say wise guy, you mean he was like a wise guy? Or
You know
he
what,
was a wise guy?
That's what I was going to ask, Neil.
He was a very
Because I've
wise
been accused
guy.
of being a wise guy before.
Not a wise guy. He knows his acoustics.
Well, when the UK person says it, it's different. So
Very wise when it comes to acoustics. Bloody hell. John Brandt's an acoustician. He talks about acoustics. He knows his stuff. He's one of my favorites. Go and check him out.
he's a wise guy.
God.
That's funny.
Hey, Nathan, when are the TikTok reviews coming out tomorrow on the next episode, or because I'm pretty excited for those.
Yeah, the titles and other TikToks. So it's Flat Earth Debate Uncut Enough to show whoever we covered in that show, or whatever the name of their video was. And then the rest of the title is and other TikToks. I think it's tomorrow it comes out on the You're
I'm
like
so excited.
4 people.
Just keep paying attention, you'll see it. So now, if I was to say that, it would mean a totally different thing. If I said, yeah, I watched this guy's videos, he's really good, he's a wise guy. Totally different.
Yes, we've gathered that. Thank you. I'm so glad that we laboured his quality acoustics information. Great.
What did you say? To expect advert racism or something like that?
I'm sure he's not even Italian. I don't know. I've no idea. It's not relevant.
Talking about something that's not relevant.
Right up a little bit. It means something a little different here. When you said wise guy,
Let's reiterate that
that's
wise
my
guy
memory.
means something different for you. Yeah, okay, let's reiterate that point 6 more times. I think this is definitely worthy viewing material, Neil. 5 more times, maybe.
Gone.
This is why we need a pre-show to iron things out first.
Well, for me to get my temper under control before the live show.
You need to be prime and regulated.
Get the angry, stop ruining my sound bits out of the way. Get them, cool down a bit.
Do I still sound far away now? Or no?
You sound checking yourself. Sound fine.
Yeah, I'm just asking.
It's a little bit quiet, but you're fine.
Okay. Do I sound like what's the dude's name? Something 40? What was his name?
Okay, all right. I'm just gonna take control. Go ahead, Adam.
Thank you. I was looking through me feeds. You get suggestions in YouTube. I don't want to discuss the video. I just thought you'd like the title, Nathan. What's wrong with this world? That title summarizes many of the objections we have here. And unless you can think of a reason why a load of scientists are in a cave to find King Arthur's body, scientists finally find the body of King Arthur in a cave. It was archaeologists that did that, not scientists. But just a nice example of the misuse of the word. Unless it is, if cave, then body of King Arthur.
They love stealing valor of science, don't they? If you've got something you've worked very hard on or calculated something complicated, then it suddenly elevates itself to the lofty position of being scientific.
Yeah, so just an aside, I thought I'll mention that. I've not seen anything so blatant and contradictory, but
Do you not find that Adam, as people elevate in their career or field of expertise, they start to want to ascribe that valor to themselves? So I've seen it as we're talking about acousticians all the time with acousticians. They'll talk about the calculations of a room mode frequency, apply it to a room, deal with it, and then call it science. Like, no, that's pure maths, every bit of it.
scientifically set the acoustics up. Yeah.
But
Hey Nathan, when talking about acoustics, you ever get into that subject of the cathedrals and stuff like that?
yeah, I mean, some people would say that small room acoustics is very different to a venue that's large, because in a small room, the frequencies that are piling up on top of each other, if you will, are higher up the range in a smaller room. They increase in frequency as you decrease the volume. So in a large space, you don't have to deal with a room mode as much, or you still do, but it's just nowhere near as much of a problem than it is in a small room. So a church, a cathedral, a stadium, those sorts of acoustics are same. It's the same sounds, but it's different. So yeah, it's a slightly different field. Pro audio versus home audio, and studio sound versus, public address. I suppose is the best way to compare those two things.
I kind of want to step in for acousticians, because is there something that's causing the qualitative difference in that sound?
Is there a cause and effect
Interference?
relationship between a given enclosed space and the acoustics? Yes, there is.
So depending upon what they're doing, they might be doing science.
Yeah, the effect is the mode, eigentone is the correct terminology within acoustics, I believe. So the eigentone is the effect. The cause is the frequency overlap or sympathetic frequency based on a given volume, or more specifically, based on a specific dimension of a specific volume. So in the same way you can ascribe science to gas pressure, the force exerted on the walls of the container, effect, pressure, cause, containment. Well, if you've got a cause and effect relationship to assert with gas pressure, there's no difference in terms of acoustics. You could definitely put it within the realms of science. That was a long answer, but yes.
I ain't saying that's what they're doing, but if they wanted to, they could. People like paleontologists, I don't think they can.
No, definitely not, which is why Adam's stolen valor example is so egregious, and I agree with him. There's no way. That's why I say when someone talks about even gravity, you just give them a pass sometimes, because you're putting forward a concept of something that's denser than the air moving downward. Okay, right, you're fine, no worries. You're not knocking me as a flat earther when you do that. Yeah. And when you steal valor of science for something that you go, you could have formulated this into a hypothesis if you'd actually understood what the method was. You haven't. But again, you're making a point. It's fine. You're dealing with an effect in a room, and you're saying the science of this material is how it will take out that effect. Therefore, and you go, well, not really, but fine. You're still dealing with an effect. You've still got, a causal relationship that you've established, and you have dealt with it and shown the outcome. Fine. Good enough for me if I want to deal with that problem. But it's not as egregious as something that can never be formulated into a cause and effect relationship. Digging something up, right, Adam?
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
Yeah, I
So
agree
wait,
with
it's okay to say
that.
science?
If you in the
But like,
strictest sense, if you're dealing with a cause and effect relationship and the effect is a naturally observed phenomena, now could I sandwich in eigentones in an enclosed space? There's plenty of naturally occurring enclosed spaces. I can easily detail the natural effect of a wind going past an open chamber, that's a cave, and the frequency that's developed from that open chamber. Now that principle turns into a type of a particular type of absorber that just works by having a hole at a certain diameter that lets air move over it. Well, I can get you an example of a cave that will do that, and within the chamber create a resonant frequency. And so I can say, yeah, that is definitely a naturally occurring phenomena. And I can
Hey,
figure out the cause of it.
real quick before we move past it, when normal people say gravity, right, they're talking about changes in the horizontal or in the vertical as it relates to the horizontal. And, and that's usually down with most objects because most objects are denser than the air. So I think that's why we give them a pass, or
Okay.
that's why I do.
Right. So indeed, exactly. There is something that you can ascribe to it. So you just say you're just using a word that's got a meaning that's used in very many different ways as a magic trick. But in this instance, you're just using it for a specific meaning that's been hijacked in terms of how gravity could be taken from older meanings. But you end up in an etymological fallacy. That's not what gravity's for. It's not there to be defined or taken back through its etymology so that you get a more specific meaning. When someone says just stuff's going down through air, and that stuff is not necessarily going to be the air itself, right? I just wanted to cover this as well, just so I don't forget to. It's a Helmholtz resonator. Now, a Helmholtz resonator, if you've ever had a glass bottle of Coke and blown over the top of it, that's a Helmholtz resonator. That's what I was trying to describe when I was saying you could easily observe that effect naturally occurring in nature with a cave or an enclosed space that's been created naturally that then creates an eigentone within it. Anyway,
Also creating a vacuum, right?
I'm just saying, the only reason for pointing this out is to say that there are certain things that people will definitely try and steal the valor in an arena that you could ascribe the methodology of science to. In this case, we're talking about acoustics. Now, when someone describes how they've taken a material and increased its rate of absorption, that's how much of the air velocity it can take out of the air, and they show an increase in performance through material science, that is technology. That is not science. They might call it material science, but it isn't. It's technology. And you're dealing with rock wool and how absorbent it is. This isn't nature we're dealing with here. Yeah, that's very different. So when they call that science, it doesn't get a pass if they were here debating with us. But in their stolen valor, you're like, it's far less egregious than something that's never going to find its way into a cause and effect relationship, as Adam has exampled. So we're going off into the weeds because I'm interested in acoustics, and it's a useful opportunity for me to weasel in some of these terms, just because it's nice that I know them, and we're going to be covering an acoustician talking about gravity. But when we're talking about stolen valor, Adam's example is the one that's the better one, not mine. Just let's get that clear.
Yeah, that's what I was wanting to highlight, because the paleontologist is never going to use the scientific method ever.
What part of being a scientist involves going and looking for King Arthur's body in a cave? You see, that was the point. That the effect is finding King Arthur. The cause is going in a cave if you're going to science it. That's so bad that there's no reason. And I don't understand what's wrong with the word archaeologists. Yeah? Paleontology, or whatever that field is that those people have the qualifications in that discipline. Why aren't they using that? There seems to have been it's not a dirty word, but it's not got any valor. Let's use the word scientist because that has value to the general public now.
Which sounds better. Which sounds better.
But isn't
Hold on.
but isn't all? I'm sorry.
I am involved in the science of mechanics. Which sounds better? A man who works in the realm of the science of mechanics and mechanical engineering. That sounds pretty swish, right? As opposed to, I'm a mechanic.
Yeah, I'm an engineer.
Exactly.
But ology isn't ology study? Like ology is study, like geology, biology, archaeology.
No.
It's a study. There's nothing wrong with that. You're studying either the body, gems, whatever you're studying. There's nothing wrong with that. So I don't even think. Okay, the scammers they hijack scientists, but I think the mainstream has put that label on them. What is this called?
We do it naturally ourselves, though, because we understand and have been educated that science proves things. When it comes to saying that I have learnt this to the extent that I am absolutely certain in what I state, then I'm going to call it a science. Because I'm so certain, I've studied so hard, I am so learned in this subject, whatever the subject is, that because you've been trained as a kid that when you're proving things, you've got science, well, I've proven all of what I've said to be true. Well, it's a science. So, yeah, that's why.
I heard somebody say the other day they're going to science the shit out of a football game.
Yeah.
So what is that?
It means they're going to do some very complicated maths and get lots of data, like not just a little bit, an absolute ton of data on every little aspect of the football game. Okay. Yeah, so do gamblers. It's pure maths.
Right. When you're describing potentialities, you're not talking about science because science gives you certainties.
What about Scientology? Do you think they use the name science to give it more credence?
Oh,
Or the word
definitely.
science? Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
an
I just
interesting
noticed that.
point now. Yeah, what the hell does that actually mean? Scientology. It's what are they linking it to? Because their claim is Zaphod Beeblebrock's planet, isn't it? Just.
Well, didn't
But
he
you know
just say
what?
ology study? So they're
But you
studying
know what?
science, I guess.
You'd think people would clue in, like, wait a second, not everything with science attached to it means it's backed up by science. You'd think the Scientology would kind of give you that clue, right? So it also has like the opposite effect too, you could say, or could have the opposite effect.
I think what you're detailing is when you use a magic trick too much, it stops having the effect that you want it to, And I think that's what's happening in today's society is there's so many people out there stealing the valor from science that they're starting to throw away actual science as well.
Starting to?
Oh, I got you. Like a little bit what might be going in FE community. But I say it's because they don't understand it. I'm not attributing it to malice.
No, I'm not either. It's like with Jaron, right? He identified that people saying that they had science was lying to him or weren't telling him the truth. So we aren't ascribing malice. They were just wrong. So he thinks now that science can be wrong. And then he formulates like, well, if you don't use the scientific method, then it's not empirical. And he thinks that's a rebuttal for science being empirical, or the method of science being empirical.
Yeah, it's
right. So he has it partially wrong, but he's we understand where he's coming from. Morning.
It's got to the point where he's
Chocolate.
appreciating that
How are
lots
you,
of
bro?
people are saying the word science when they don't have it, and therefore they're liars. But he's then saying that is science. It's like, no, it would be the same as every time somebody gets burgled, the way the burglar does it is goes up in a police uniform with a flashlight and goes, "Police, let me in." And they open the door and he burglarizes the place and gets away. So this happens hundreds, if not thousands of times across the country. People pick up on this great way of getting into people's houses without breaking windows or anything. You should go up with a torch, look like a policeman, say the word police, let me in. They always let them in. Okay, so then Jaron comes along and says, all police are thieves. You're like, whoa, 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 whoa. No. The police are there to protect and serve, and the people who've figured that out are pretending to be police. But they were never police to begin with. So ascribing this, not proving things, being a scam, being fake, ascribe all of that to the people who say they are police, but they aren't police. Likewise, all the people who say that they're proving what they lie about with science aren't science. They've just stolen the valor, like the burglars have stolen the valor of the policemen. But you don't then say, let's get rid of the police. They're not proving crime or dealing with any criminals. No, they are, and science does prove things.
You sound like left liberal Americans right there. Get rid of police, defund them. We don't need them. We'll police ourselves. Autonomous towns.
On some level, Jaron recognized that because he said, well, if you have a researcher that's incompetent and doesn't follow the method, then the method doesn't work. It's like, so if you don't follow the method, then you don't get an empirical result, which was your point, but he thought that was a rebuttal.
What are you going to do? He'll get there eventually.
Are you talking? Hey, everyone. Hey, Nathan. I take it you're talking about Jaron Campanella.
Well, actually, no. He just came up as an example of the stolen valor. We were talking about paleontologists and how they'll never have a cause and effect relationship, and how sometimes you'll give people a pass when they talk about gravity because they're just describing how something solid or liquid in some instances falls through the medium of air, and they're not trying to be cocky. They're just making their example with a word that they colloquially understand to mean that. So they're not suddenly saying we've got bent 4D space-time or mass attracts mass. They're not saying those things. So you just go, okay, fine, just give them a pass. But there are other instances when they'll start detailing out-of-date 108 Newtonian mass-attracting mass, not letting you fly off a spinning water ball. And you're like, no, that's a step too far, especially when you're using that as an example of how your science can't be denied and science often is denied. And it would be akin to denying the force of gravity. When that sort of thing happens, you have to step in and go, whoa, 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 whoa. So your example of how you should be taken to be true is because we should all take gravity to be true. That's suddenly got a problem. Doesn't mean you're any less true, but your example's definitely going to get addressed. And that's what's going to happen today.
Right. This is from a video that you posted last night, yeah? There was a 30-second clip.
Yes.
That's what. Yeah, I didn't watch the video now, but I saw it. I saw the post. Yeah. Okay.
We played the clip earlier. The clip about how the world is after the fact in terms of the bureaucracy. We've already kind of dealt with that in the pre-show, but the rest of it we'll cover in a minute. I mean, you can have a little bit of preamble if you want to hear a bit of what's being discussed.
It's common denominator.
That's right. Yeah. So let's just maintain it the way it is until the facts become so overwhelming that we have no choice but to recognize it.
Well, that's a shame.
Anyway, check them now, so I'm happy to roll with it as it is when we start live.
It is what it is. It's what I.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. Let's deal with it.
It's like it's like you. It's sometimes the idea becomes so prevalent that it becomes the common instead of, you know, an idea. Okay, so you know, if you have a wall, we've had situations where we've had building people who are saying that unless it's described specifically in a certain code, that it can't exist. And perfect example is my laboratory. Okay, the building we're in has 4-foot thick concrete walls. Well, the code only goes up to 1 foot thick concrete.
Its laboratory is for testing acoustics. Yeah, so he wants it completely isolated.
And says that 1 foot thick concrete is fireproof. But
Okay.
4-foot concrete is not defined as fireproof because it's not described. Okay, so the building code people say, well, if it's not defined, then we have to assume it's a worst case situation, which is a wooden wall. So I had to sit there and think about, well, in order to meet code, they were telling me I had to cut windows every 20 feet in my 5-foot thick concrete wall, because that will allow the firemen in to put away or do away with a fire in my concrete bunker, because my concrete bunker will burn. This is what I mean by rules. Okay.
Okay. I mean, we could draw parallels with what we deal with in Flat Earth with that, but this is more of a preamble, hence we're doing it in the pre-show. When we get to the bit where he talks about gravity, it'll all make sense.
Rules can be good, they can be bad.
Okay.
And when they're bad, if you don't use common sense, and one of the things I
Go ahead, Brian.
No, I was just agreeing with you, Nathan. I didn't have anything to say. I understand why you're playing the video.
I got from somebody one time involved in government, is that the government doesn't recognize things like the laws of physics.
Good afternoon, everyone. Full panel today, Nathan.
Good morning.
Yeah, fairly chock-a-block panel, which is always nice. Nice when we get into a bit of housekeeping and there's completely dead air when I ask the first question. Always great to see it. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
It's 3 Arwinian units.
3 AU,
I
you
can
say?
give you.
Was it not 2 AU? I thought it was 2x distance to a rainbow. 1 AU being a distance to a rainbow, 1 Arwinian unit.
There's 1 Arwinian unit is the distance to a rainbow, but I don't know. Arwin's here.
Oh, is he?
Have I got it wrong?
No, I don't think so. Subscribe today to Arwin, ARWIJN channel for more eclectic views on current affairs as Arwin sees them. He does a daily show called The Early Bird. It goes out just before this one does. Everyone wants to rumpus my plug for Arwin. He does a show called The Early Bird. It goes out just before Flat Earth Debate, about an hour or two before us. Depending on how long he goes, he's probably rounding out as we speak. So yeah, please check him out.
He got a guideline strike.
Oh, did he? Oh,
yeah.
How many times? Got to read those terms of service, Arwin. Anyway, he's cutting edge. That's why he's on the fine edge of being in the wrong for YouTube terms of service. Just how good he is. That's why he should be subscribing.
It's not just YouTube now; it's D Live as well. I've heard today, so it's got banned on there as well. God knows for what.
I don't know. Well, you can find out Arwin's outrageous view that's got him in trouble, I'm sure, when he next goes live, when he's sorted out whatever strikes he's currently under. What question have we not had in a while? Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the center of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Let me go check. I'll be right back.
Good luck with that.
Can I use P waves and S waves to calculate what the Earth's made of?
Off a flat Earth, you can. That's how they work. Any more for any more? Any particular housekeeping question anybody wants to do? I think we've pretty much covered them all over the course of this week.
Any evidence that great circle roots are circles?
That's not a housekeeping question. Outrageous. Get out.
That is
It
a
might be.
housekeeping question. You just choose to ignore it most of the time.
Let me get it right. A
Um,
housekeeping question that's never been asked really for more than about a week as a housekeeping question.
Well, it might, with the video that's coming out, it might be relevant to cover viable hypotheses.
Okay. Well, yeah, let's do the gravity question. Let's do the gravity question first, because that's specifically what we'll be covering. So today's video is something close to my heart because it's one of my all-time favourite acousticians, as strange as that may sound to say. But yeah, so John Brandt, and check him out. Go and subscribe. If you're in any way interested in acoustics, if you're running a YouTube channel, you're a singer, you're a musician, you should be. So learn about acoustics immediately, because why haven't you already? But if you're just a YouTuber and you're like, you're sticking up a phone, then maybe not. But, like I say, these people deal with audio, getting it to sound good in an environment, whatever that may be. And they're extremely well versed in it. I actually don't know who his guest is, but he's just as well educated as John Brandt. But John Brandt's the guy I followed for a number of years now. And yeah, he's one of my favorites. So they're discussing acoustics in general. And like many other times that I've watched John Brandt videos, I didn't in any way think that this would be overlapping into Flat Earth, although often videos that I watch in my spare time do find their way into the subject matter because they want to ridicule us. But there we go, that's a different matter. I didn't expect it in this, but it has, for reasons that will become clear shortly. So I've just put a link to John Brandt's channel. If you do want to check him out for acoustics, please let him know as well. At Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Share the love algorithmically. He's not got a massive channel, which is a shame because he's got such great information when it comes to acoustics. But yeah, so don't be horrible. Even though we're going to be knocking his guests' views on gravity, please be polite. Please be nice. I don't want this guy to hate me. Not that I'm, 6 degrees of separation isn't the reason. It's just because I like the guy. Anyway, please let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. There's a link going by. The video, as I say, on the John Brandt channel is called Schroeder Frequency, Room Software, Law, Physics and Science. That's the name of the title of the video. Gives you an idea probably why we're covering it already. But we'll get to that in a minute after a couple more housekeeping questions. So any scientific evidence, hint, hint, of gravity?
What is the phenomenon that we would be studying?
Which of the 5 are you asking about?
I didn't know. That was too Irish. Let's try that again one more time.
Which of the 5 gravities are you asking about?
Oh, which of the 5 gravities are we asking about? Beautiful. I thought there was just 2. There was me thinking there was out-of-date Newtonian mass-attracting mass from over 108 years ago now, and Einsteinian pseudo-Riemannian force-based time bending. I just thought there was 2.
No, there's 5. There's incorrectly labeled Newtonian force of attraction gravity. There is the current bending of space-time, Einsteinian general relativity gravity. There is quantum gravity, it's on the way. There is electric gravity from our own side, supposedly, right? And there is specific gravity. Now,
Let's start there.
Specific gravity.
Specific gravity, yeah. What's that?
What's that? This correct term. Its correct name is relative density. So yes, there is scientific evidence for that.
Hold on. You're saying specific gravity is the description, if you were to have a phenomena of and describe the effect and cause for that matter, relative density disequilibrium of an item. That's what you're saying is specific gravity.
Yeah, it's pardon the pun, but it specifically deals with the object and the medium and the density of the two.
Yeah, it's got nothing to do with gravity, so it's to do with relative density disequilibrium. So basically, your base point is water, and then specific gravity will be adjust on a scale that's relative to that, so it's either more or less dense than water. So that's its specific gravity. Do you use it?
Who uses this? Is this official?
When you're brewing, when you're doing brewing, you check the specific gravity of your beer, So you'll pop it in and kind of tells you how your beer's going, so you know how much is in there and how dense it is, etc., etc. That's what specific gravity is when you do stuff. But it relates, like your base reference point is the specific gravity of water, which in of itself is its density.
So it is literally, as Brian said, it isn't even capable of being extrapolated out further beyond. Specific gravity is an item's relative density.
That's what it's called. Even if you look up specific gravity, which I did some while back, just to get a check on it, of exactly just what I just wanted to know something about it.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, they say specific gravity. I don't know if they said better known as or also known as relative density.
I'll read the definition. So Merriam-Webster. The ratio of the density of a substance to the density of some substance, such as pure water, taken as the standard when both densities are obtained by weighing in air. So basically, it's all to do with relative density. It's nothing gravity isn't applicable.
That's what we say.
Yeah.
Well, the way...
So that's beyond gravity relatable to reality. That's what you're saying.
This one's better. Khan Academy. The specific gravity of an object is the density of that object divided by the density of water. There you go. So it's that ratio between them.
Well, there's a little bit of overlap because all the gravities are going to be describing something's vertical movement with reference to horizontal.
This is the point. This one doesn't reference up, down, any pseudo forces, anything. Its only reference is the density of water and the density of the other liquid that you're going to make reference to as a percentile of the density of water. Gravity, there's no gravity in there.
Hold on. That's not what John said, though. How can you sandwich in or extrapolate out? I'm sure you're going to point out how bloody obvious this is now, John. But how do you get that horizontal reference plane out of that specific gravity when it is just literally the relative density, divided by what the density of water is? Did you say, Adam?
Yeah.
That's it.
Right. So your water level will be your horizontal plane, and whether it rises or sinks within that medium will be your vertical movement.
Really?
Yeah, it's because it's only an up or down. Yeah. What it really is buoyancy.
Hold on. The reference to describe it is just Archimedes, then.
Archimedes' principle, yeah.
So you're saying that to describe relative density, or if something's moving, the relative density disequilibrium of a specific object in a specific medium, when described divisible by the density of water, when displacing something in water, a la Archimedes' principle, that is specific gravity.
Yeah. Specific gravity is buoyancy. It's how much buoyancy is offered to an object or substance.
Hold on a second. You can't say it's buoyancy. No.
It is. That's what buoyancy is.
Stop. I hate to interrupt you. Up until now, fine, everything was hunky dory. But as soon as you say buoyancy, that's got its own definition that incorporates gravity.
Yeah. No, it doesn't. That's wrong. I must have saying this a load of times. No, okay, I'm going to have to correct you now.
Feel free.
I'm going to completely correct you.
Okay,
buoyancy is Archimedes' principle from 900 years prior to anyone mentioning anything to do with gravity. It has nothing to do with gravity. Gravity is a downward vector force. Buoyancy is a supporting force, right? Supporting effect, depending on the medium and the object or substance within that medium. It has nothing to do with gravity. Just because they say it has doesn't mean that it actually has. You're wrong. Sorry. I have to be very straight with you about that.
Well, obviously you don't like it when the shoe's on the other foot. So when you bark on all the way through after shows about, well, yeah, but that's what they say. Well, in this instance, they can cite it and do in terms of buoyancy, having a direct connection to not specific gravity, but quote unquote gravity, which would fit into either one of two things, right? Newtonian or Einsteinian, when you just say gravity as it's referenced in citations about buoyancy.
Buoyancy is 900 years before anyone mentioned anything about gravity. Buoyancy is just the thing they had to hijack because it debunked their claims that everything is going down due to an attractive force. Because it's not. Because things go up because of buoyancy, like helium balloons. So that's what they had to hijack because it's the thing that debunked them. Right? It has
Fair
nothing to do with their claims is that force of gravitation. A force of gravity gives weight to a mass, but weight is a a linear downward vector force. Buoyancy is not that. Buoyancy can cause things to go up, which is not down. They're just hijacking it.
I get that.
Now, I'm not allowing them to hijack it any longer.
I'm not having a jab at you other than to say that you will fight the corner of, well, yeah, but that's what they'll cite to you. That's what you end up arguing about. Therefore, it's worth discussing. But that's what I'm getting out of you now. Not that I in any way disagree with you. And yeah, I appreciate that's what we're dealing with, right? They take these words, oh, that's a bit of a problem. Well, we'll just incorporate it. If we fold that into a description of gravity and stick it in a Merriam-Webster, then there we go, problem solved. So then we end up having to combat that. I understand that you're just saying, well, yeah, they had to. It's nothing to do with their downward bias, which is gravity. It's up, but they've got to incorporate it, so they fold it into a definition, and then that's good enough for your average surface puke regurgitator, aka anti-flat earther / baller, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you weigh an object in air and then you weigh it in a vacuum, it weighs more in a vacuum because there's less buoyancy. Their problem is they need to give weight to the air. What they're trying to claim to be a mass of air, right, is given weight by a force of gravity. And they have to make that claim for them to claim a gas pressure sticking to the outside of a ball in a vacuum.
Okay, well, we've approached this backwards.
One second.
Okay,
this is important to see. That's not the only example I could give, but it's the one you're fully aware of, right? But that is not what happens in air. An object is given a certain amount of buoyancy because air is a medium. And Archimedes' principle, Archimedes himself was pointing out that the medium, right, mostly was based around water at the time for ships now, but the medium determines. You know what I mean? It's all about like a massive ship made of steel, because it has so much air in it, it is actually less dense than the water. It's only when the water is replaced by water through water coming in over the sides or from the bottom, then it becomes more dense and sinks. So weight is only, well, just 1 second. All weight actually is on how much buoyancy something has. That's all weight actually is. Because I can stand on those scales now and my weight will be whatever. But in water, in fresh water, my weight will be less. In salt water, it'll be less again because I have more buoyancy. So that was what they had to hijack.
Indeed.
Sorry, John.
Go ahead, John, and then I'm going to just cover, before we get onto the video, debunking Einsteinian and Newtonian gravity both, so that they are concisely covered before we get into the video. Go ahead, John.
Right. So if you take a ball and you push it into a tank of water, the water level will rise.
You're going to need a flat earth for that. Archimedes' principle.
So, right. So whether you're talking about buoyancy, gravity, or just displacement, you're going to need a flat plane for that.
Indeed. Isn't that ace? Yeah, well, this is it. Well, that's where I was hoping this would end up, because when I was having a little jab at you, going, well, you always point out how the anti-flat earths will argue these points with us, and you've got to go around the recon and understand where they've hijacked buoyancy in this instance. And I thank you and applaud you for doing that, because I couldn't have done it as concisely as you just did, Brian, even with my interruptions. But there we go. But the point is that when you've got something that can cut it all off at the knees and just take it straight to a flat earth proof, you chuckled for the same reasons I've been chuckling like the last 2 months every time you go, oh yeah, right. There could just be a V12 going over the highway in this regard, straight to the, well, you're going to need a flat earth for this principle when you describe the displacement.
I mean, I just, when I say they're always saying this and they're always saying that, that's more to do with the nonsense they're going to come up with to try and argue against the point. But when it comes to buoyancy and anything like buoyancy that they've just purely hijacked, I won't avoid it. I'll actually use it against them. Because I've done it, I don't know, umpteen times in comment section on YouTube when someone comes at me with something and they bring up buoyancy and they go, yeah, Archimedes principle. Your point is, and they can't come back with anything because they know, that's not, what have you got? They have nothing because they're trying to, how dare they take the natural effects that we see in the world, the natural things, visual effects, let's say refractive things, and actual effects, relative density, things like that. How dare they just take that and hijack it? I won't allow it. And taking it back from them, that's what I'm trying to do. But besides all that, John ends it by just saying, well, water level is rising. You're going to need a flat earth for that. It's like, because you will. Now, sorry for being so straight with you, Nathan, on that topic, but I felt I have to be there and then.
No, I
So
want you
I'm
to.
not gonna be
No,
aggressive with it.
don't get me wrong. I want you to. If it didn't, I'd have to drag it out of you. And in so doing, it would seem like I'm trying to oppose you saying it so that you'll fight me over it. It's like, no. That's how the education comes across to the audience. But it's good to have a chuckle. So long as we've done that, we've had a fairly large interim between me introducing the video that we're going to be covering, because he talks about gravity. And in a minute, I'm going to preempt that even further by discussing actual Newtonian and actual Einsteinian gravity as people understand it, so we can just overcome them before we even get into this video. But I want that cutting edge understanding so that you can, as you've just done, explain that no, what you actually come across isn't going to be sufficient to just have well, you're going to need a flat earth for your raising horizontal plane of reference with this differential in terms of Archimedes principle. Now, that is the Lamborghini going straight to the flat earth, but it doesn't mean that the person listening shouldn't recognize that you have to have all the other understanding that Brian's got to be able to overcome it. If they just throw that back at you and you've got nothing because you don't understand the foundations of the argument, you only understand the shortcut. What happens when that shortcut's blocked? Or seems
Can I
to
just
be blocked?
expand on the detail of, because you can
have to shout out the super chat just so I can take the chat off screen. Also, good call, Gord. He's pointing out the sort of, I think he's sort of hinting at the etymology of gravitas, right, which no one's picked up on, saying Latin for the bendy space-time experiment Nero conducted just before burning down Rome. Thank you for the etymology. Really appreciate the super chat. Go ahead, Adam.
So yeah, just Brian's right. In the olden days, Archimedes, it's all expressed as weight. There was no invocation of gravity, and buoyancy is described as that. The buoyant force is the equivalent to the amount of displaced fluid. The weight of the displaced fluid. Now, when you've got your anti-flat earthers, and the way it's described now is to use the same formula, but instead of using weight, they just substitute the old switcheroo, where weight now becomes mass times gravity. Yeah, so that's how they crowbar the G in. They make it weight, which is the thing we measure and do our calculations from, but they then just subdivide the weight as m times g and pretend that g is really involved, when it isn't. It's just an assumed subdivision of the weight you've measured or the weight of the fluid you've displaced.
Well,
Yeah. What they did. One second, John. What they did
Hold on,
took.
John first. Go ahead, John.
Well, no, let Brian go because his point's probably relevant to what he just said.
Oh, if you have to. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I kind of know what John's going to say anyway. It's going to need a flat earth for that, but so he's better off saying it at the end because that's going to be the end of it anyway. But what they did is they took a book that was written in Latin by Isaac Newton, and words he used like gravitas, meaning which is a description, not a claim force, a description of heavy or weight, and the word massa, which is a description of an accumulation of stuff or matter, right? Not something that is given weight by a force of gravitational attraction. Right?
Let's deal. Good segue. Perfect segue. Let's deal with that. Okay, so there's commonly two gravities in quotes, right? Now they are independent of one another. One supersedes the other. But we'll start with the former, notion still taught to school children right up to a high school level, which is what we'll be covering in the video in a minute when we get to John Brandt. Subscribe today. That is the idea and notion that mass attracts mass. Gas behavior defies that 108-year out-of-date superseded by Einstein rhetoric of Newton in name only. He did not want this notion ascribed to him, but it was anyway. So Newtonian, in name only, mass attracting mass, is debunked if you just observe gas behavior. Mass does not attract mass. Gas has mass. If you want to define mass for us, that would be useful, but we'll get there later. Meanwhile, it's not attracting. Yeah. So that is superseded 108 years ago. It's not like this is recent. Not like we're talking about 10 years ago with some of these acoustics governing bodies or whatever you want to call them. 108 years ago, a man named Einstein invented, that is to say, conjured out of existence that wasn't there before, a geometry, pseudo-Riemannian force space. And that is the notion of space-time, a fourth dimensional, invented geometric aspect of our universe in description only, mathematics, bending as a result of, in the mathematics only, the description of the uneven distribution of mass. Now, in terms of whether or not you appreciate up until this point how that doesn't need to be debunked, it's a pseudo-geometry invented by a man. So, because a pseudo-geometry says we have a fourth dimension that bends, doesn't make it so. It's a pseudo-geometry. That's not our world. So, gravity is not a force. End quote, George Musa. Alternatively, there isn't really a force of gravity at all. End quote. Professor Brian Cox. Now, I could go on and on and on and on and on. The reason these gentlemen, let's not give them too lofty a title, do not ascribe gravity as having a force is because it's a bent space-time in a fourth-dimensional pseudo-geometry invented by Einstein. So that is as concise as I can be in this particular instance. Debunking of the two gravities. Mass attracting mass, it doesn't. And bent space-time, show me 4D space-time. Oh, you can't, that's because it's not real. Okay. With that being said, is there any last comments? Because I do want to get into this video. We're like half an hour into the live show, and I haven't even played a word of it, I don't believe, in the live show yet. If not...
I just wanted to say that it would be interesting if M times G could give you movement downwards in the vertical axis 90 degrees to the horizontal. That would be interesting to see.
It would, because it would be proving a flat Earth.
You'd need to be able to measure either M or G.
What's M? What's G?
What I'm saying. There you go. So none are measurable independently of themselves. They're said previously, they're only just assumed and derived via the convention of weight.
Perfect. Okay.
Right.
So,
right, but if they were measurable.
Go on, John. You get the last word.
But if they were measurable, all you could do is describe vertical movement with respect to the horizontal plane.
You're going to need a flat Earth for that. Okay, right. So this videographer is called John Brandt. As I said earlier, one of my favourite acousticians. And please let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, because we're going to be covering, moreover, his guest that he's been discussing acoustics. The guy, I'll do his name. I'm sorry, I don't know it. I did look in the info box. Is mainly what we're going to be responding to as opposed to John. But there we go. We'll get into this now. Please let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a nice comment. Like, this is definitely somebody I like.
Okay, they're theories, and only theories. And the reason is because only the legislature can make laws. Okay, and I pointed this out to somebody one day, and I said, so if the legislature says that gravity is not a law, then you're going to tell me that people just float away, right? Because you haven't defined gravity as a law. And the one guy said, well, he said, according to what we have to deal with in the government, that's true. And I said, so you're denying physics? No, we're just saying it's not a law. We're the only purveyors of law. Okay, you guys are science people. They're theories. And I said, well, the best way of checking out the theory of gravity is go to the second floor and step out of the window and see if the theory of gravity will keep you from sitting on the floor and becoming a respot. It's like, and this guy just looked at me like, you don't understand. Only legislatures can do laws. And I said, well, there is something called the law of gravity. And I'm sorry, but it isn't going to change just because the legislature says it's going to change.
Yeah, you step out a window on the second floor, law will
prevail.
provide consequences for your breaking that law.
Right. Yeah. And I just pointed this out, and the person looked at me kind of like funny, like, you don't understand law.
And so do you. So we're going to break that down. Okay, so there's quite a few words to unpack here. But we're going to start with that one. Okay, so law. Now, in law, when he's talking about legislators, you might be talking about the law of the land. You might be talking about criminal law. But the context that he's trying to purvey is that what he's dealing with when talking about gravity is natural law. Okay, so what's natural law? Let's throw it open to the panel. What's a natural law?
Something that's happening always, but we don't know the cause of it.
Perfect.
In the natural world.
Descriptions of things that occur always in the natural world. First law of thermodynamics. Second law of thermodynamics are the ones that we cover quite frequently on this show. Now, in this particular instance, we're going to focus on specifically the second law of thermodynamics. Because that law of nature, that's a description of something that occurs always, describes the very specific expert field that these gentlemen work in. When describing how, things all go towards the ground, just step off the second floor building and you'll see that happen, really? What about the gas that you guys study in your laboratories? All sounds very scientific. So you're dealing with gas. Does the gas that the sound travels through go down, go boom, boom also? Have you got a little puddle of gas at the bottom of your laboratory? Does the pressure of the gas going down with gravity affect your readings when you measure the bottom of your laboratory over the top of it? Do you have an increased pressure because of gravity? No. It obeys the second law of thermodynamics. That would be gas behavior. It disperses equally into its containment. Equally in all directions, not going down with a bias. Equally in all directions. For your principles of sound to be applicable, you can't have a gravity. Because if you did, the gas would be going down, go boom, boom too, wouldn't it? And that would mess up all of your measurements in your laboratory. Because you'd have a, gas differential, also in requirement of containment. But you don't. What you experience is equal pressure throughout your chamber. Because that's what gas does. Disperses equally in all directions. And if it collides with a wall, then it'll bounce in the other direction. They're called elastic collisions. So where's your gravity? All right, well, we already covered this, didn't we? That would be the Newtonian idea that mass, you, are attracted to another mass, Earth, when you jump off a second-story building. But that was debunked 108 years ago. Gravity is not a force. Mass does not attract mass. That's defied by gas behavior, as we just demonstrated. So laws of nature simply describe things we observe to happen always. So while you describe a claim to be law of gravity, things will always go down. Well, if it's a law, it must apply always to the gas. It doesn't. It's not a law. It was superseded 108 years ago. So while people might have been looking at you funny because you say, oh, well, you as a legislator don't know what a law is when we're talking about nature, well, neither do you when you give an example of gravity for something that occurs always, when I can show the gas that you study on a daily basis not doing that. So it doesn't happen always then, not a law. So gravity, what? Mass attracting mass? Men falling towards the mass of Earth? Yeah, that's not a law. The very gas that they're falling through defies that, doesn't it now? Otherwise you wouldn't have a job studying it. Meanwhile, science was mentioned many, many, many times also. Right? These are scientists. They're talking about science. They're talking about legislators and how science fits in with these bureaucrats and their red tape. Now, they can't accept reality because it doesn't help with the consistency of the world and the cogs that turn therein. Oh, right. Well, wouldn't it help to actually understand what science is if you're going to start claiming that people haven't got it? Or that their bureaucracy prevents science prevailing? Well, I would assert that yes, you should understand what science actually is. It's a method for establishing the cause of a naturally occurring phenomena by way of systematic experimentation based on a hypothesis. That's what science is. And you can point that out to people who claim they've got it when they haven't, and call them pseudoscientists. Because pseudoscience is a claim of science when you haven't been through the method. That's what we're generally dealing with. Pseudoscientists who claim gravity. So that they can say you're not going to fly off a water ball flying through a sky vacuum. Because that's what it's only used for. That's what its actual practical application is, in a model. Because we're not flying off a water ball, given that every single measurement that claims we're on a water ball is derived from a flat plane, as John has so eloquently exemplified throughout this live show so far. I don't think there's a great deal more to cover on this video. I've said my piece. Please go and subscribe to John Brandt. We will get, obviously, the opinions of the panel in regards to his assertions of jumping off a building when making his point about how science should be adhered to when bureaucracy stands in the way. There you go. Check him out. John Brandt. There's a link going by right now. Any comments from the panel?
Well, I didn't see anyone else's lights going off. So, well, he's making the biggest mistake he's making is being arrogant. He pre-assumes that he has something that will make his example for him, that will debunk the legislators. It's like, no, you're missing the point. What you're trying to do is use something that you don't know anything about or the history of as an example that proves your point. But your point is wrong because your claims are wrong, because you don't understand what you're talking about. So you're just pre-assuming that this force of gravity exists and that by jumping out the second story window, that would prove it to the legislator that force of gravity exists because the legislator will go down. So it's arrogance. A lot of time people come forward with these. Often happens with gravity. You know, it's like, oh, you don't believe. Well, if you don't believe in the law of gravity, and it's not a law, it's not a theory, and it's not a law, it's not anything, right? So if you don't believe in the law of gravity or the theory of gravity, right, incorrectly stated, then try jumping out a second story window, right? So I'll go down. So how does that prove your gravity? What has that got to do with this force of gravitational attraction that I know you're claiming? I know that's the exact specific gravity you're claiming. Imagine if you asked him, which of the 5 gravities are you claiming? How many heads would he looking at you? What do you think you have? People arrogantly throw out these kind of things, these heliocentric ideas. You know what I mean? Heliocentric ideas that they throw out there arrogantly, thinking that makes their point. For someone uneducated, it would. But not when they meet somebody and they will continue, and somebody who's talking about the same things as we are, and they will, because people like us are growing in numbers in the world. So that's going to backfire on someone publicly. Finished.
Indeed. And the fact that it's used in this example is because it has such bite as an example, because it utilizes the death cell to sell you on gravity. Will jump off a building if you don't believe it, is a fear-inducing methodology to shame you into thinking that you should be jumping off a building if you don't believe in gravity. It was also topped off by him saying, if you don't get this, you just don't understand. Like, again, another form of ridicule. Now, for his example that came previously, check out the pre-show if you want. I might play one statement from it before the live show's rounded out. I'll rewind back to his glorious statement.
Can I comment on Brian?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm waffling to keep the momentum going. Go ahead.
No, I try to get in, but see, it's funny because Brian says uneducated, which he's right, because he doesn't know the real description or usage of the word gravitas for gravity that they've hijacked. But I'm going to come in from the other side, because they have taken that word and made it a force that doesn't exist. It's all the educated people through all the education systems that are coming to this argument with a false understanding of it. And Brian is just opening that up with his nice, eloquent talk there but he used the word uneducated. But I want to switch it and say educated falsely, and then Brian educates them properly. You see what I'm saying? They're misusing the word. Like, for example, you have a law in some places that say no smoking in this restaurant. What's that got to do with gravity? Nothing. But it's a law made by local government. Now you have natural world. Some things go up, some things go down. But they're saying there's this force of down. But there isn't anymore because gravity is now the force. So the same education process that got everyone to think that there is a force is telling them 100 years ago there is no such force. So they're in trouble.
Just out of interest, which way does the smoke go?
Yeah, exactly.
Up.
And as you're looking up at the smoke, what's up in the clouds? Are the clouds falling down? Go boom boom.
No.
What about the helium balloon that I released? Does that go down?
No.
So this law of gravity, this description of something that occurs always, it doesn't occur always at all then?
No. That's the thing about it. Like, when borders, they ask the question, why down? Right? Because sometimes they won't even say everything goes down. They just say, why down? And my answer to that is always, why up? And they have to then say, well, it is buoyancy. Yeah. So why down then? Gravity. No. Buoyancy. It's how much buoyancy something receives via the medium it resides in. Depends on whether it goes up or goes down.
Right.
Less buoyancy, more weight. More buoyancy, less weight. As in less downward force. This is the thing. People think down equals gravity. But what does up equal? Oh, that equals buoyancy. And they completely miss. Hang on a minute. How can up happen?
This is where I've got to interrupt because this is why I've actually covered this video. It's the main reason we've got there. Thank you, Brian, because you've given me the perfect segue. So, what's the next rebuttal from our anti-flat Earth counterparts? Come on, Thunderfoot's famously been coined for this.
Gas goes down, goes boom boom.
Gas go down, go boom boom. What are acousticians dealing with?
Air.
Air. They're dealing with air velocity and air pressure. So the force, the gas, when generating a sound wave, exerts on the walls of the container. Now, if you have a sympathetic frequency, i.e. the frequency is the same size in dimensional terms as the room itself, then it will amplify. Now, the amplification comes at the point of pressure, where the force is exerted on the wall of the container. So the very principle that's being dealt with in acoustics of air velocity and air pressure cannot lead them to an assertion that gas go down, go boom boom. Can it?
No, it's impossible.
No. So where'd you go from here? Your average normie has no understanding of how air behaves. Acousticians, on the other hand, have an exemplary understanding of how air behaves. They know it doesn't go down, go boom boom. Otherwise, none of their maths would work. So,
exactly.
So, gravity, definitely not a force. And we don't even need to mention how it's not a bent fourth-dimensional pseudo-reality, because that only exists in the pseudo-geometry invented by Einstein. So what are we left with? Because in these gentlemen's mind, from a flat Earth perspective, it's the force holding them to a spinning water ball when deriving mathematics from a flat plane to reify their existence onto a water ball flying through space with gravity holding them to it. It isn't. And the principles they deal with in acoustics defy that with gas behaviour, air velocity, air pressure.
If you take, just for the audience and for the video, if you take the statement of a force of gravity gives weight to a mass, and you then transfer that as to what that would have had to be written as in the Principia Mathematica, Newton's Principia Mathematica, it would translate as, right, like vis is force, right? Gravitas is weight, and massa is an accumulation of stuff or matter. So it translates as a vis of gravitas gives gravitas to a massa. And what that, if you translate that into English, is a force of weight gives weight to an accumulation of stuff. Now, a force of weight gives weight to accumulation of stuff. That means nothing.
No, it's almost akin to the formulated hypothesis given to us on a few separate occasions when you're detailing the Cavendish experiment, which gets formulated: if mass, then mass attracts mass.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's like I don't know if a double negative is the way to describe it, or double positive. You can take the word gravitas out and put in any word. The force of water gives water to a massa. Do you know what I mean? It makes no. It just makes no sense when you put it into that.
No, it's perfect. Adam went through it earlier when he was talking about how it's self-cancelling in any equation. They can insert it into the equation to just take it out again, so it's just there, but it has no bearing on anything. Well, when you describe it within its own description of a nondescript mass in this instance, it just invents itself and then removes itself simultaneously, doesn't it? But when you have net force zero, what are you describing? Well, you're describing all of the counteractions that are finding themselves in equilibrium for gravity. What's the end result? Well, nothing. Net force zero. What do you mean nothing's happening? No. It's not that nothing's happening. It's that not nothing's happening. Net force zero. Net force, because there's gravity involved when nothing's happening. Yeah? It's just a way of getting it to cancel itself out.
Well, it is. I mean, I understand more now more than ever. It's not saying I didn't understand in the past, but now it's like I really understand why QE goes after the word mass so much. Because as soon as you insert the word mass into a sentence, even if you're not talking about weight or anything else, you're invoking that this mass is either being given weight via force of gravitational attraction, that would be pre-Einstein, or you're stating that this mass is a quantitative measure of inertia, and weight creates inertia. So either way, you're connecting the word mass to weight. Either way, on either pre or post-Einstein, you're connecting the word mass to weight. So it's like witchcraft, where you're constantly tricking yourself by using the word mass when you don't realize what you're actually stating. The definition for the word mass needs to be changed to what its original, its original Latin version of massa, which is an accumulation of stuff or matter. That's fine. If someone was to refer to the word mass as meaning that, I'd have no hassle whatsoever. But that's not what's employed, whether people realize it or not when they use that word. As soon as you use that word, you're invoking a force of gravity straight away, or you're connecting it to weight via a quantitative measure of inertia. Either way, you're connecting mass to weight each time, as opposed to weight just being weight and mass just being the description. That's what it is. Mass is just a description. Whereas they've tried to turn it into something different than that. So it's like you're conjuring up a force of gravity every time you say the word mass, literally.
Perfect. Who is it who's trying to get a word in? They're going to do a call to action, and as an orthodox as it is, I'm going to do a housekeeping question in the middle of a show. But go ahead, whoever that was.
Yeah, that was me. So flat Earth requires a closed system because we have gas pressure. Spinning water ball, the way they sell it, is an open system where gas pressure cannot exist. So they have to come up with this thing called gravity. It's all made up. But since we have gas pressure, that debunks their version of gravity, where they steal what its original meaning, gravitas, weight, and buoyancy within another medium, how something could be more buoyant or less buoyant based on its density. So just to wrap it up, flat Earth, enclosed system, gas pressure can exist, no contradictions. Spinning water ball, open system, no gas pressure can exist, but we have gas pressure, so end of their folly.
Well, that was going to be my segue into a housekeeping question after my call to action. So, got about 90 people watching, which is great, but it's just not as great as it can be. So, please share the show. I should thank the people who've already shared it, as that's probably why we've got 90 odd people watching. So, thank you very much if you've shared the show. A very warm welcome if you've just got here. This will continue. It's not the end of the show. But please share if you've not done so already. As I say, thanks if you've done so. And thanks if you went and said hello to John Brandt and said, at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Somebody who can't wait for me to get through these two things I've announced twice that I'm going to be doing. So the second thing is a housekeeping question that's going to be asked, and 10th has beautifully segued into that, which is to say that, again, for the same reasons that acousticians have this as a problem that they will not employ as an overcome, which it isn't, in regards to gas pressure without a container. So I might as well ask it as a housekeeping question. Is there any evidence that you can acquire gas pressure without a container?
No.
Outer space is fake. The sky is not a vacuum. If the sky was a vacuum, then the gas we're breathing would fill that space. Entropy, again, second law of thermodynamics. A description of something that always occurs. Gas always fills space. And what do you know? They claim the sky above us is just a space. They even call it space. So it's a space for gas to fill then. Yeah, entropic law, descriptions of things that occur always. Gas would fill that space, we'd all be dead. Outer space is fake. Nobody's going to the moon. Nobody's been to Mars. Nothing's leaving the obviously must be antecedent consequent relationship contained system that we must have to be breathing. But to have gas at pressure, we must have containment. Therefore, no trips to the moon. Because if a spaceship can travel to the moon, so can the gas we're all breathing into the same area of space that it's claimed that the moon travel took place in. Go ahead.
Nathan, this guest on the show that you like to listen to was trying to use the word law. So we have gas pressure and the laws that govern gas pressure, which no one's going to argue because no one could show gas pressure without containment and no one could show a vacuum without containment. So this guest would have to agree those laws work. Now, I want him, if he ever listens to this, to contrast that with the pseudo law of gravity, because that is in stark contrast and opposition to the gas pressure laws. So he could free himself of this brainwashing if he takes what he thinks is a law, a force that doesn't exist, versus the law of gas pressure. How do you get gas pressure? So he's in a bind if he's going to stick with the word law.
Well, his entire career is based on how gas pressure works in a confined, contained space. That's his job. Both of them. That's all they do.
Okay, so take that knowledge, I'll be done real quick, Brian. Then say, contrast that with what you've been told is the law of gravity. One contradicts the other.
Yeah. So I've looked for this segue for, like I say, I've been dealing with treating my studio, as I can now happily and fondly call it, for a number of years. Every birthday and Christmas, every bit of money that I've had going spare. I've even done a couple of GoFundMes to buy a couple of panels here and there. But I've done that, hence me being interested in what John Brandt does, because that's where I've got all the information, not just him, but many other acousticians. He's one of my favourite. So to say, oh, right, how does this relate to our subject? It should have been obvious from the off. We're dealing with gas pressure without a container when we debunk outer space and the sky vacuum. Well, that's all they're dealing with, right? Gas, how it behaves in a room at pressure. Perfect.
Well, the thing about it is for heliocentrism must claim, right? This is it's not that they must. So this is their claim that air has weight, which is gas goes down, goes boom, boom. That is what they have to claim.
If you are having trouble sleeping, you can utilize today's sponsor. This show is brought to you by Heliocentrism. All-time best sleep relief you'll ever have. Total sarcasm.
the worst help you to sleep thing ever.
Even when I was a proper heliocentrist, there were things that gave me sleepless nights about heliocentrism. Specifically, the vastness of it all, and the emptiness that left me with. So when I focus on it in the shows and talk about the insignificant speck of dust that you become in a heliocentric world, it's because I dwelled upon it prior to Flat Earth. Yeah, it's another death cell, isn't it? It's another fear-based mind control. That's all it is.
Well, that's the goal of heliocentrism, is to make you feel that way, because they don't want you to know a creator. They don't want you to search for a creator. They don't want you to live to a conscious that governs you. They want you to say you're an accident and this is the only life you got. Live it, party, do whatever you want. They want an excuse to do whatever they want. They don't want to be under any obligation to a creator whatsoever.
Here has weight.
I'll just do one last plug because we're getting towards the end of the live show. So this is John Brandt, as I've said many times in the show. It's one of my favourite acousticians. Please let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, as we've covered his guest. It's not actually him that we've been covering, although he did agree with a lot of the sentiment and would also be very useful because his specific career does deal with gas and its behaviour. When we debunk gravity, this has been a useful segue. So I'm glad that I've actually been able to incorporate some of the acoustics knowledge that I've acquired, not that I have in that context, by shouting out one of those people that served me very nicely in terms of my quest to treat this room. And I hope it sounds great. So yeah, shout out to you actually, John. Thank you very much for all your wonderful information on acoustics, as I've got the opportunity to say so. Hopefully a few people that I've sent your way will subscribe and appreciate how fantastic you are. So thank you, sir. It's not actually this gentleman on screen. Let's just see if I can picture. There you go. John.
Yeah, he's a real wise guy.
He is a very wise guy when it comes to acoustics. That's correct, Neil. There you go. Subscribe today. John Brandt. Okay. Any more remarks before I ask people to stay tuned? We've still got a couple of minutes left. Hopefully I haven't just killed the conversation by doing that last shout out for John Brandt.
I will say something. If air has weight, then objects will weigh less in a vacuum. Objects weigh more in a vacuum. That's the end of heliocentrism. If air doesn't have weight, the heliocentric paradigm, I use the term, people don't like it, but it's the best way to describe it for the everyday person. The heliocentric globe model cannot exist.
Yeah.
If objects weigh more in a vacuum, and they do.
Or to link it to these guys, if air had weight, nothing in acoustics would calculate out the way it does. Pressure is exerted equally in all directions, and that's one of the principles that has to be adhered to if you're measuring anything. And while you might have an increase in pressure that can affect acoustics, or a decrease in pressure, gas isn't going down, go boom, boom. There is no gravity applicable. The
information coming from this show is second to none.
Yeah, absolutely, Neil. We are ace. You are not wrong. That's why there's almost, but not quite, 100 people watching. Please share the show. But seriously, thank you for everyone who has shared it. We wouldn't have almost 100 people watching. But it'd be nice if we had 100 people watching when we round out in a few minutes' time. We'll see. Please share the show.
Well, I think Brian should say it again and keep saying it again. I mean, just on that one point about weight in the vacuum destroys, from that aspect, all the other arguments they give you from other points.
Yes,
How many
Brian.
ways can this globe light die?
It would help if you were even more repetitive than you normally are.
You want me to say it again?
But you don't listen.
Well, the thing about it is that if you take it on board of what the implications of air not having weight means, most people, and I mean most people, will go, yeah, that's strange, it doesn't have weight, should have weight, and they just carry on. It's like, no, you don't live on a globe in a vacuum. And that is the proof of it. It's just so simple. It's too simple for people to just grasp. It's more simple than the black swan. It's more simple than anything else I think I know of in this arena. Just that one thing. So that's why people aren't latching onto it. It's one of those things. It's like years ago, the horizon argument was, I remember hearing that horizon argument years and years ago. And I even used it. But it wasn't until the black swan came out that everyone kind of went, hang on a minute. Do you know what I mean? Well, not everyone. There's still bozos out there. I still don't get it. But on our own side, because they're idiots. But anyway, the point is that it's the simple things that we look straight past. And they are the most devastating things. Because all the heliocentrism does is complicate matters as much as possible, because they never had an argument. So all they've got is complications and maths and jargon that intellectually intimidate people. That's all that group of people have.
Before he said it, I'm going to use the word with a little chuckle, gravity. What's wrong with you, Nathan?
What's wrong? What?
Well,
what did I do?
You repeat yourself 4 times according to Neil, and then you accuse me of repetition.
You used the word gravity.
Just in describing, like I just used the word a moment ago, Nathan. Neil is not intent on talking about the other day when you used the word gravity to describe something. I was talking about how my point was with very simple things like objects weighing more in a vacuum. The vacuum weight is more when it has to be less for a heliocentrism. That is so simple that you have to repeat it 1,000 times. That they literally get into people's faces with it before one person, right, realizes the gravity of the situation. Pun intended. Do you know what I mean? It's like just the use of the term gravity of the situation. It just implies, because technically the weight of the situation. That's what you're really implying. But it is anything simple. It has to be repeated and repeated and repeated and repeated, and people just don't listen to the simple things. They're trained to only hear complexity. You know what I mean? Take notice of complex. It's complex. That means it must be right. It must have some cowbell. No. How complex is the heliocentric model? How complex is fourth-dimensional space-time bending? Well, what is it? It's a nothing. Sorry.
Yeah, but it is elegant.
Yeah, I mean, but look at like things. Complexity intimidates. Now, all heliocentrism ever had was complexity, right? Because if you have an argument, you don't need complexity. You don't need complexity if you have a genuine argument. But when you're dealing with someone or people who are constantly using complexity, you end up having to get into their complexity to find the simple things that tears it apart. But then you have to get people to listen to those things, because they're going to listen to the complexity. Like with the black swan. And Kiwi said, I want them to say, when he said it to Nathan, I want them to say refraction. And Nathan went, oh, right, because it's not geometric. But what happened? Well, as soon as the ball brought up refraction, what did the flat earthers do? Instead of thinking about it, they started wanting to have a conversation about refraction. Instead of they're missing the point. No, that means it's not geometric globe over. Do you know what I mean? They can't get that simple point. And that's the fight we're in. We're fighting simplistic truths.
See,
or in reality versus complex lies and nonsense.
There you go, Nathan. Brian just said it. You're not repeating enough refraction, then it's not geometric. You need to repeat that so much. You got to be better than 10th man, because from cradle to grave, they're repeating heliocentric lies, and that's why we have clashes with our family members and loved ones, because they're under the daily barrage of these repetition lies, which have to be opposed by repetitions of truth statements.
That's true, because last night, as my wife was listening to a sermon, the pastor said something about the greatest on the planet, or he's praying for the planet Earth. And I was like, oh, come on. That's all I said. And she got all over me. That's not important. I'm tired of hearing this flat Earth. I didn't say nothing. All I said was, come on. Because come on already with this. It's 2023. I got pastors from the pulpit saying planet, praying for the planet.
Why do you think the acoustician brought in the law of gravity? Because he thinks he's on a planet.
And that's the elegant part of it, if we think about it. We're taught that we're living on a spinning water ball, but yet everything appears to be flat. We're constructing bridges and tunnels and cities, skyscrapers on this ball, but it's flat when you're on it. And we're also orbiting the sun with other planets like us.
But there you go, O'Neill. What your partner said when your wife said to you, when your wife said, oh, well, you give it a break. It's like she's missing it. No, don't give it a break. That's the point. Like when the guy on the pulpit said, planet, it's like, oh, here we go again. Like you're hearing his own indoctrination come out. His own lack of understanding of his own reality. And your wife then is like, oh, will you stop with this stuff all the time? It's like, you can't stop with it. She doesn't understand yet. You can't stop with it because when should the truth stop? If he's saying planet,
it should never stop. That's my point.
Exactly. Yeah.
Why is that just overlooked? Like, it's okay. Satan lied here, and he got the whole world believing this delusion, and it's not important? What do you mean it's not important?
Yeah, she was referring to, oh, it's not important right now. No, it is. Now is the time it's important more than ever. Because a lot of the problems, I'm not bringing that up, in the world today, right, stem from people having crazy beliefs that aren't in line with reality about the world and the nature of the world they live in. A lot of stuff wouldn't be happening if people realized, hang on, we're not living on a globe in a heliocentric space vacuum. It's like, I saw a meme. It was a meme with Tom Cruise laughing, but it was the meme. And it said, the caption was, when your relatives or loved ones say to you, will you stop with this flat earth nonsense and get into the real world? It's like, that is the real world. I'm not the one who's not in the real world or not trying to be, But people, it's okay. We'll put up with the deception for now because there's other more important things. No, there isn't. That guy saying planet on the pulpit, that is the problem. You know what I mean? Not everything is going to be perfect if people realize what they live on and live in, but the world will be a far more tolerable place.
Yeah, because people realize that they're created. Go ahead, Ted.
No, this whole thing is same as Plato's cave. The whole world's in the cave. Not the whole world, but all those who believe in planets and heliocentrism in this context are in that cave. And we're saying, hey, listen, just step outside. Look, you need the elevation angle, gas pressure can't exist without containment. We're not a planet, et cetera, et cetera. And because the majority of people in the education system through repetition, Nathan, has brainwashed them, we're always clashing with our friends because they're under this lie because they're in Plato's cave.
What might be a good idea?
The indictment was I'm losing my whole family. Well, I was like, huh?
What I could do, if you want me to take that tact, which you obviously think I'm not, I could have a long-standing daily debate show about this subject so that it's constantly reiterated. How about that?
That's what it was so shocking to hear you accuse me of repetition. I was laughing when you did it.
I was accusing Brian, not you.
Oh no, you said it to me. Yeah. Just at the end of the show, you said I'm the one repeating things. Always.
I meant to say Brian.
No, you said me though.
Oh, I meant to say Brian.
Well, throw me in the.
There you go again. You almost said it again. I meant to say 10.
I almost said
just throw me in the Brian group.
It always comes out Neil when telling someone to stop interrupting.
Adam.
He almost said Arwen.
But you look at our own
I'd
group
like
here.
to introduce an alternate possible critique of the gravity, which is debunked in the model because air goes all directions.
It's all right, Nathan. You don't have to give your disclaimers. We know you. Fine. Just give us your example.
Could an alternate critique be that air is not fitting into the matter category?
Yes.
I know that the model assumes that, but...
Yeah. Brian, feel free to speak to that. Absolutely correct. Feel free, Brian.
What do you mean, the matter category?
Mass.
Well, I don't know. It might be someone who...
Areas matter. Areas matter.
Who wants gravity, but they they know that air does not go down, go boom, boom, so that you could just put air in a different category that's not affected by that supposed force.
Well, it's not. No, air is matter. Air is matter. It's physical.
How do you
it's
know
matter.
that?
Because you can feel it.
Hold on, let's just
Air is
cover
either,
that. Hold on,
there's
Brian.
either matter or
It's-
energy.
when we say matter, we're just saying it's stuff. Unless you're going to deny that the air you're breathing comprises of physical stuff. When we say matter, we just mean stuff. When you say prove it, what do you mean prove it? Prove that the air is containing stuff?
You can't see air.
I'm watching the trees blowing the breeze right now. We see the effects of
You
it.
see the leaves move, but you don't see the air.
Okay, what's your point, though?
We see the effects.
No, okay. Are you saying that because we can't see it, it doesn't have stuff? Is that really the level that we're going to argue at, if that's your point? Seriously?
Well, it's very different from all the stuff that we see and weigh and can observe fall down.
Yeah, it's a completely different phase of matter.
So it's a phase of matter.
Yes. Water exists in lots of different states, doesn't it?
I don't see nothing falling.
Yeah, you can see water, kind of, with stuff reflecting through it, but you can't see water vapor because it's a gas. You can see steam.
I don't know.
Rising.
It was
but
just
then it
something that I
disappears.
thought could be an alternate critique.
But you don't need an alternate critique. That's the point. You're trying to complicate matters. There's no need for it.
Don't be like that. It's just having a chat. It's just trying to be friendly. Can you just see?
Yeah,
I just want to cover something. Just one thing. Just a little thing.
To try and have that way.
Right. You know how we can't see air because we're existing within it. We're within the medium. Could you not apply the same thing to water? I'm not going to even compare it to a fish, but if I am in water, I have actually been in water before. If I open my eyes and I look at, let's say that there's something at the bottom of a pool. Someone's dropped a coin and it's reached the bottom of the pool. And I jump in the pool. My eyes are now in the water. I am as one with that medium. Okay? I swim down to the bottom, grab the coin, come back up again. Okay? When I was in the process of grabbing the coin, am I seeing the water?
No.
Well, it doesn't exist then.
I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. I'm saying that it's very different. So it maybe should not be in the same category as matter.
But why? When we categorize things
it's a fluid.
in their terms of state, when we describe matter, how things behave is different when you compare relative density to the medium that is being described with displacement or a downward vector. You're saying, well, if we just exclude air, well, no, that's why I took you very cleverly to water, because you can drop a basketball in air and then have those principles apply and then say, well, let's just ignore the aspect of the air itself. Well, what about if you put the basketball under the water? Well, then
Maybe I should introduce the terms fluid and solid.
Why?
Well, that makes sense because now you've done what you should have done from the beginning. Liquid, solid, and gas. They all exist. They're all matter.
Yeah, but they behave differently depending on the medium in terms of how a gas disperses through a solid. If the solid has got a certain amount of porousness, I don't know what the right word is, but you can disperse a gas through a solid. Now, you can also disperse the gas with the solid. So it's always going to be medium specific. So it's not like you can just take one aspect of one, in this case, medium, and that medium is going to be a phase of something that could have the exact same material pass through it in a different phase. So it's always medium specific is the point. You can't just exclude one aspect.
His problem, Nathan, is he's using air because it's invisible, so he doesn't think there's invisible matter. Just try riding a bike into a strong headwind on the road. and see how tired you get because it's just blasting at you. And then turn around and say, I'm done with this, go the
Sure,
other
but
direction.
that
Now
brings
it's
in
pushing.
another factor, which is the motion
I-
of the air.
Excuse me, I was just talking. If you ride your bicycle into a headwind, you're going to struggle. If you turn around and go the other way, it's going to push you and you're going to love it. What's that?
Air pressure.
What is that? You
I
feel
don't
it?
know.
It's the force.
We
You feel
can't.
it?
Hang on.
We don't
hang
have.
on. Do you feel?
We can't see a dome.
Do you feel it?
Hold on. He's
So
got somewhere.
feeling,
He's
yeah.
got an agenda. We don't see
I'm
a
trying
dome.
to. I'm trying to question him here.
I know,
Just
but
let me
he's
have
got
it.
an
So do you
agenda.
feel
He's
that
just
air
revealed his.
pressure?
You're not looking for the
come on.
tells. He's just revealed his hand.
Well, with everyone talking, maybe I missed it.
He did.
He's an etherite.
And we don't know that yet. He just said.
Oh,
repeat
I
your
know
last
that.
statement, Nathan.
We don't see a dome.
We don't see air.
Hold on. How do you know? How do you know that you don't see a dome? How can you prove this negative statement? Do you know that the sky, when black or blue, is not a dome? You know that for certain.
Black or I
You know what
don't
the
know
sky
how the
is,
color.
right? Let's just take that one step back. Do you know what the sky is?
It's pretty mysterious the higher
That's
up
not what
you
I mean.
get.
Are you aware that there is something described as sky?
Yeah.
Right. Do you know, as you have stated, that that is not containment, what we call sky?
Well, we live within containment.
Yeah, that's not what you're saying. You said, I don't see a dome. And I'm saying, if you're going to make that as a negative statement, I know that it isn't. Okay. So how do you know that the sky isn't a container?
I'm with you on that. I think maybe the thing is a container.
He said we don't see a
and
dome.
Yeah, we don't see it.
I don't know what we see. I don't know would be a fine statement because I don't know what the sky is. But to say, I don't know what it is, but I know it's not a dome. I don't know that. I don't know it isn't that, is my point.
So you're saying the blue and the black and
Sky.
could be the dome.
We
don't know.
No, if you're going to say it is a bloody dome, I'm just going to hold you to the exact same standard, aren't I? You know it is a dome. Fine, let's do it the other way then. Okay, so you know it is a dome, Neil. How do you know it is? It's just the same exact question, but with you saying it is rather than it isn't. Neither of you know if it is or it isn't. But to make either statement in the affirmative requires a standard of proof that neither can provide.
Well, we know
I gotcha.
something is because of the pressure, correct?
We know we must have containment. Correct. We must have containment with breathing.
But we can't see it.
And we don't know that we can't see it. I don't know, to speculate,
Then
that what we see as black/blue, in inverted commas, sky, I don't know that that's an effect that's considerably lower than the actual containment that we have. I don't know that. Now, I know that we do have containment. We must have. We're breathing. So at some point there is containment. But I don't know that what we describe as sky can or cannot be ascribed to the description of the containment. I just know we must have it. But I don't know what the sky is. Do you see the distinction?
So I'm saying the same thing about air. We don't, I mean, maybe we should say we know less about air than we do. Tying that into matter.
No, you used the statement about containment and said dome, which would have to be something physical in nature, solid, because it's the antecedent for gas pressure. That's what you were trying to compare the invisible air to. So why did you use that in contrast to air, since you can't see the dome or the air? Are you saying air is not physical matter?
That was my proposal. that this could be an alternate critique.
Who would make it when you're just agreeing with it?
But the problem is that you think you need an alternate critique. Because you don't understand the critiques that are already there. If you fully understand them, there's no need for.
Well, I'm wanting to critique matter, though.
What do you want to critique about it? And why?
Well, that it gets into other philosophical realms like atomism and things that you can observe that are visible.
And?
Contrasted with things that you can't see that are mysterious.
Like
air.
Say what you're going to say, because you know you want to say ether.
Why do you keep saying you don't know that, Neil? Why do you keep presuming that?
Let him answer.
Let me ask him.
Hold on. Do you want to answer Neil? Are you some etherite that's here on some agenda to get us to talk about ether? That's what Neil's suggesting.
Well, I'm not sure if I could summarize the argument that's been made against ether is that like Whitsitt would say that ether has an effect, but you can't observe it or test it. But we observe pressure. I don't know if he ties in the pressure of our air into ether or not, but then the critique would be that we can't observe it or test it, and so that's why it doesn't exist. I heard an interesting other comment tied to that radiation is ether, but I'm not sure what to think about that.
Thing is, you don't seem sure about anything, but you seem to have a priest you're referring to, who, by the sounds of things, you think has the answers. Is that where we're at?
I'm just trying to learn.
Why are you referencing somebody else's thoughts on something?
Because the ether, because he's someone who's promoted that on your show.
And we destroyed him on this show.
He's not you, is he? We're talking to you.
No, but it's just a discussion about the topics. And then when you reference those who've spoken about it before, you can have a better idea.
Let me ask you a question, because you heard when you said the word ether, people ask you to define it. So you've obviously got some idea. It's playing some role in your worldview. So maybe you could define what you think ether is, because I've asked Whitsitt, and I don't think we've got very far. But obviously, you seem to have an idea. So do you want to just define what?
Well, my idea
is when you're referring
more
to
into
it?
that invisible, mysterious realm that this is part of. As comes up here, creator, something that holds all things together, pressure, something that we breathe to live, that gives us life.
Right. You're saying
but I brought this up maybe in a different avenue earlier, and you said this is not a spiritual show; it's a physical show.
He's saying
But
ether is God. Come on, it's so easy. He's saying ether is the creator. That's what he's saying.
Yes, I told you that right from the beginning.
Come on.
He didn't say that. He said we breathe it.
Okay, let me ask him. Are you
But
saying
he's been here
ether is God?
before, Adam, talking about what I've
Okay,
heard
can
him
you
say
cut down on the
before.
color
I don't just
commentary?
copy.
Thank you.
Can you just
Thank
calm
you.
down?
Color
Everybody.
commentary we don't need. Thank you.
I don't have a conversation with them. I'm just trying to ask. So you've said it's something that surrounds us and binds us. Just to summarize, see, it surrounded and binds us. Yeah, it creates pressure, and it's the thing we breathe. Is that a fair summary of what you just said?
Yeah.
That'd be air.
Yeah.
So, but there's another aspect to that.
What?
Air.
In the stop. I was going to interject, but I didn't want to break your flow by saying, could you possibly detail what ether is without juxtaposing it with air and what air isn't? when you're detailing what ether is. No, what you've just detailed is air, but that isn't ether. We didn't say that explicitly, but I am now. Don't now tell us what air does, because air is not ether. Air is air. Mysterious or otherwise, we will be talking about air if we're talking about air. Ether isn't air. Is that clear?
Ether isn't air. What? How can you make that claim?
Because air is air. What's ether? If we can define what ether is, and it's the same as the definition of air, then that doesn't mean that air is ether. It means that you're describing air as ether, but air is still air.
An ancient, I know this may not be well received, but an ancient description or definition of ether would be the upper levels or fiery realm of air.
Name that fallacy.
It's the fallacy of
called an
defining.
It's called an etymological fallacy.
Field to idiocracy is more like it.
Not idiocracy. Etymology. It's an etymological fallacy.
Yes, I heard you.
At some point, the words have to. Maybe this ties into logic, and a lot of the argument that is made on this show is logical, and the words come from something, and they mean something.
Exactly. So what is ether?
Hang on. Neil, just carry on the conversation. So that makes sense, okay? So with that making sense, words have meanings. Why would we make a new word up when we've got a perfectly good word for air, as in air?
No, it's a very old word. Ether is.
Wait, let's get back to ether. What is ether to you? Because we've realised that it's not air, because air is air. So what is ether? Not what did people thousands of years ago. When you're referencing it in your worldview, what is it and what is its purpose?
Didn't I just ask that?
Neil, he hasn't even answered yet. Stop with the colour commentary.
Well, the term creator comes up a lot too on this show, and I would tie ether to creator. So creator, if we want to define that, is something.
Hold your tongue, Ten.
Dude, just ether, please. We don't know. I'm aware of creator, unless I don't feel the need to redefine or reaffirm the term creator. We're all good with that. Question referred to ether. Can you just define?
How do you define creator?
Why? No, I've got to step in again, Adam. In the same vein, I didn't want you to juxtapose ether with air and then go on to describe what air is. You've just asked Adam what his description of creator is. No. We're not going to be juxtaposing anything with anything before we know what ether is to juxtapose it with something else. So far, we haven't had a juxtaposition. We've had a hijacking of air, and now we're having a hijacking of creator with a reversal of the burden by you asking Adam to define what creator is. We're not defining creator. You are hopefully at some stage going to define what ether is, though.
Can I please say something quickly?
No, not until he answers.
But this is important. This ends the whole lot, right? Because if I don't say it, QE's going to step in and say it, and he's going to probably say it anyway, right? The ether you're referring to was invented by Huygens to describe how light as a wave
Brian
propagates.
Why are you putting words in his mouth? He's not defined what ether is yet.
Thank you, both of you. Do you want the question again?
I think that is.
Hello. Totally losing control because everyone waiting for their turn to speak when he's been asked a specific question, which she's probably forgotten by now. You need the question again, Nathan.
Well, you're to define ether. That there is a relationship between air and light.
Hey, we're not talking about either. We want you to define what ether is before we describe how air and light have a relationship. Is ether light now? Are we going to juxtapose it with light? So it's air being juxtaposed with ether and creator being juxtaposed with ether and now light in air.
Well, I have to confess that I have a bias or a lot of preconceived notions from the scriptures. So all of
I'm
these
not
things
talking
are
about
tied together in the Bible.
dude. I'm not
Hold
worried
on.
about your
Don't
preconceived
go there.
notions or anything. Neil, please. I'm not bothered about your preconceived notions, or you want to cite scripture for what ether is, feel free. But we're still at that first point. What is ether, please?
What is ether?
Yes. What is ether?
As you were saying, it's a medium for light. That's how it's commonly been defined.
I wasn't saying that.
Wow.
Oh, I thought you
I'm
did.
asking you
Hold
what,
on. Is
what,
that
what,
hold
what
on?
is it
Don't get hung
to
up on
you?
him telling you it's you and your definition. Is that your definition, Nathan? Are you saying it's the medium for light? Is that what you're saying?
It's I'm not sure what it is, but I came in here asking about air and that if we could critique the model, the heliocentric model, saying that air is not matter, and that was shut down
But it
because
doesn't sound like you're trying to make a critique. It sounds like you're either trying to change the definition of air or matter or both. So that's why we're a little confused right now, brother.
And that's not a heliocentric model, is it? That air is considered as matter. It's nothing to do with heliocentrism. In fact, it creates a problem for the heliocentric model, doesn't it? That fact, as we've discussed in the show. So I'm not.
atomism
I
is
think
another
chocolate's
model
probably.
within it.
I think chocolate's probably nearer the mark. So is that what you're trying to do? Redefine the term air? It's how you started as ether, didn't you? Is that what you believe?
Part of what I come in and is sort of just brainstorming, so I can understand why you get frustrated when I'm trying to talk through these things and understand them. But I
not
think there's a
frustrated.
missing
I'm
point.
asking for clarity, because if we are going to talk through them, to have a conversation with you, we need to know what the words we're using mean. If we're going to start with ether, let's stay there, because let's see what the fundamental of your belief is. And you just go back to it again. For you and only you, what is it? What's its purpose?
I would say spirit. Air, the ether is a spiritual aspect of creation.
Spiritual.
Oh.
So nothing to do with the physical and natural world.
It's what animates the physical world.
So it is. It's the cause of the physical world.
You could say that.
What's the proof of that?
In the beginning, the spirit hovered over the waters.
But not the ether. Hovered over the waters, no? So what we're now hijacking spirit as a replacement. We've got the word spirit, haven't we? We know what it means. We certainly know what it means in that biblical sense. So why are we changing that word to ether, where it's going to have a very different connotation? Certainly means the scripture
I think
doesn't make sense, does it?
sometimes our words get hyper specific, and then that actually causes us to lose wisdom. So
come on,
when we talk about spirit, it also includes wind.
Is to gain wisdom, isn't it? I've got to take objection to that. Point of being specific is so you get clarity and better knowledge, and therefore wisdom, isn't it? If you're not very specific about things, you're not going to get the full knowledge. Therefore, you can't gain wisdom. So no, I'd have to disagree with that statement.
If you go beyond what you can prove of specificity, though, then
I think what
it's
you're
kind
saying
of
is,
like the assumptions of the heliocentric believers that they think they know hyper specific things about the model and the detail, but they're actually, you have to rewind back, as was being discussed earlier. It's more simple.
I think what you're saying there is, if I ignore some of the things I know, it means I can believe certain other things. Seems to be what you're
You
saying.
had to do that to come to understand flat Earth.
No, I've not changed anything I actually know and can prove, have I? I've
You
undone
never
things
knew
I
or believed the
believed.
Earth was a ball
I
before?
believed, exactly. Do you understand? Believed a ball. It
Same
was a ball.
thing.
Yes, I
That's
did
a
believe.
synonym
Yes, I did
to
believe it was
know
a
and
ball.
believe.
Now you're wanting to forget things you know, like gas is matter, yeah, so that you can believe in ether.
Maybe my overarching motivation would be that the creation and all these things that are spoken about as physical is a testimony to the creator and his overarching wisdom that we can just begin to grasp, but we see the magnificence in it and the mystery of it as we look at air and we see it, but we don't see a dome. We know there's pressure, but we don't know what causes the pressure. We live and breathe and move.
Adam, while you were speaking, he said know and believe are synonyms.
Yes, they are. So when you believe the truth, you
Really,
know it.
define belief.
Belief is a standing upon something solid.
No, it's not. You just made that up. It's acceptance without evidence. What's knowledge?
No, that's a false definition. Is that
it's a
biblical?
false definition. Really? Okay. Go ahead, cite yours in Discord, and then I'll go ahead and cite the definition of belief. Let's see which one's false.
That man's definition or God's word definition.
Definition is his
faith.
argument.
Really? Where do we get definitions from, my friend?
Has
Really?
anyone got a
That's
God
the
Bible
that's
anywhere? A God dictionary?
Maybe ask an alien.
Definition.
So the sound pattern of words comes from the scriptures.
You're just making shit up, man.
The sound pattern of words comes from the apostolic and prophetic.
You're talking people
and-
that know the Bible.
Why are
and
you
the very
confusing?
word
Why
of
are you
God,
confusing? Why are you confusing scripture with Greek mythology, where the ether originated from? Why don't you just go to Greek mythology? Then we'd have more respect for you.
No, that's his God munchy ether. Yeah, amber nectar of the gods ether. That's a very different ether.
May I ask him a question?
So
Well, I've posted
Let's
something.
stay right here.
Let's just go with that. So there's some order. Go ahead, John. Refracted.
Well, are you trying to say that in the absence of something that is ether? Is that what you believe ether to be? Like
the absence of something.
Right. Like
Well,
in the absence of matter, there is ether.
I guess, yeah, that maybe narrows my thinking down a little bit. That without spirit, which I tied to ether, maybe that's the conflating of Greek and scriptural.
Do you understand what you just
without,
did? Do you understand what you just did? You said that the ether is nothing.
No, without that, there is no existence. There is nothing.
No.
There's no substance.
No, you're going. I said without, in the absence of matter, of something, that's matter, is something. And that, in the absence of that, that's ether, and you agreed. That's nothing. You're
No, I
saying
didn't
ether is
agree. I
nothing.
was trying to repeat what you said.
Pound says he gets into the wrangle-dangle about what matter is again now.
I mean, I
Matter's
guess
simple.
the
It's a substance. Matter's a substance, right? Can you agree to that?
matter is a substance. Yes.
Okay. Now, in the absence of that substance is ether, right?
Absence of substance is ether.
Yeah, like you're in a
No,
vacuum chamber and you're taking all the substance out. The ether's in there, right?
No, my understanding of reality is not nothing. That's part of the heliocentric.
Right. But there's never a true vacuum. There's always air there. So we're never going to have nothing. But what you think light would propagate through, right, would be that.
No,
what's
so
left
no.
after
So
all
the fact that
something's
we
gone.
have something and that we exist is evidence of creator or evidence of spirit. Or I was mistakenly tying that to ether.
Well,
But
I mean,
the
as long as you
pressure.
recognize that now.
I think it's
But
kind of funny that
Hold on.
who's
But
the
your
guy
statement,
from
hold on,
Australia?
Nathan,
Yeah,
hold on. Before you move on,
butter
put distance between that last statement. So you're saying the existence of matter proves a creator. Yeah, it's a self-contained statement. It doesn't matter if I agree or disagree. It's got sod all to do with ether, though, has it? Then you said, well, I might have falsely ascribed that to ether. Well, again, we could debate about whether or not that's true, but it doesn't have any connection to ether.
Okay.
So what's ether again?
Yeah, at the moment that I got you to conceptualize it as what you don't know, where substance isn't, and what the world was before it was created, you wanted to tie that to ether. But you're wanting to describe nothing as ether, but you can't do that because nothing doesn't exist. Therefore, ether doesn't exist.
No. The Flatzoid says, "May the pressure be with you." I think he's on to something when he says that. That this pressure that's holding air down, which we can't observe or measure, or we don't know how it happens. But it is
holding air down.
Yeah,
That's
pressure
weird.
isn't holding air down. Pressure is the force the air, the gases, exert on the walls of their containment. That's what pressure is. It's not the force that holds the air down. It's the description of the force on the walls of the containment.
So it's like ether?
No, like air, and it's pressure.
Pressure?
Well,
Yeah,
I don't know if it's like
air and it's pressure. Hold on, gentlemen. I just need to clarify this for him. No. So air and its pressure and the description of pressure for air, that's not ether. That is, drum roll, air pressure.
Yeah, but Nathan, when you gave that description, he said, so it's like ether. So, dude, are you saying that is what you think ether's like then? Because that's what you responded to.
Yeah, maybe that's ether is pressure.
Ether is pressure. Of what?
Of air.
Pressure of air. So ether is otherwise known as air pressure? In a more colloquial sense. You see what I mean?
Did I not just do this 25 seconds ago? Is it just me? Am I having deja vu? Is this an acid flashback? What is going on?
No, the circular, but I think we're getting a definition now.
So it's a spirit of creation and air pressure. All right. Should I be adding these to my list?
Yes, please. I was going to make a note of that because I did. I'm glad you're here. I don't have to pass the note on.
All right.
Maybe what I'm bringing up is all the mysterious aspects of our existence that show that there's something beyond us that we can't understand without faith.
What is the hold on.
Right, well, with that in mind, then, should we ascribe those things that we don't understand and just call them ether?
That's what I was going to say.
Oh, sorry.
I guess we don't want to fall into the God of the gaps, but I think there has to be a connection between what we can observe, scientifically manipulate, etc., and the mysterious, invisible, spiritual, and maybe a lot of people are trying to use ether as that, but I'm saying spirit of God, the spirit of God is that link between existence and substance.
Okay. That's nice.
Not ether then.
There's a lot of baggage with that term, isn't there?
Not really. I just went okay, nodded along, and we asked if that wasn't ether. No baggage at all. This has no bearing on me. I already know there's a creator. I mean, if you want to figure out for yourself, look at the ontological primitives in terms of whether or not nature can violate the first law of thermodynamics and poof itself into existence, or if there was an external force that had to therefore be the only thing that could have created us. The creator, aka God. Well, I've already figured that out. What's this ether, though? If it's got something to do with my spiritual existence, beyond there definitely being a creator, which I already know, well, what is that connection?
If you, the ether, as it's commonly described, is the medium through which light is propagated.
We asked you that earlier and you said no. We asked you earlier that specific question and you said no.
Sorry?
You were asked specifically, is it the propagation of light through a medium? Answer, no. Now, well, I'm pretty sure that the common colloquial understanding of ether is the propagation of light through a medium.
Okay. Well, okay, that is my claim then.
Right, but when John took you through the steps of describing how you'd suck air out of a vacuum chamber and described the absence of anything as being the ether, you again disagreed with him with a physical
John
example that would exemplify that as an example and description, and now you're waffling through me. I have to sit here and listen to this shite. Hours and hours of bullshitters talking shite, and it pisses me off royally when you completely contradict yourself. Now, fortunately, it gives me justification for getting a little bit irritated, because I've had to listen. So I've listened to you contradict yourself. That's annoying. Okay, then.
Yeah, I understand. I appreciate you for, discussing. Like I said, I'm trying to brainstorm and understand better my own existence in this creation. And I think truth, as is well
before you go on, sorry to
show.
cut you off. I'm really sorry. What you're saying is, you've come to this subject, flat Earth, and as a result, you've had a lot of introspection. And that introspection has led you to ask some very profound questions about the nature of world, the nature of God himself, the nature of existence, perhaps. Some pretty profound and big questions. And whilst on your journey, you've come across these bullshitting charlatans who tell you all about the things that you'd love to be hearing about in the vernacular that you've been using, because it sounds like they've got something to offer someone with the questions you have. And now you're coming to us and saying, you guys tend to be able to get to the bottom of this kind of stuff. How much validity does it have? I'm just offering it back to you. Okay?
Sure. But comes to a point where it's only physical, the discussion.
Is it?
But I'm saying it has to go beyond that. Otherwise, there's no purpose or there's no end. There's no goal or there's no completion.
I mean, it's just physical. We talk often about quantum mechanics. What the cause is in a quantum eraser experiment, not a double slit demonstration. In the actual experiment, do you know what the causal influencer is? Quantum mechanics to be in existence.
Of the wave versus the versus the 2 spots showing up? Observing it?
Hold on. Don't mock him. So yeah, that would be wave function collapse, if you will. But do you know what the causal influencer is?
Is it the detector?
What? No. What does the detector give you? I assume you mean the slit detector.
Right.
What does it give you? Because the thing it gives you, that detector, is the causal influencer in that experiment.
Electricity?
No. Don't laugh. Don't mock him. It's fine. The guy wants more. God, the guy's on a path, and he's come here to get stuff, right? I'm going to give him something useful to go away with. What he's had so far has left him with an empty, hollow feeling that's led him to us to ask if it's bullshit or not. Hopefully he's already got that answer. Now he's saying, yeah, but I'm on a spiritual journey, and I want to find out because I'm left empty and like there's nothing to be existing for. Well, I'm going to give him something, aren't I? So let's not mock him. Let's just ask him a few choice questions about the causal influencer in the quantum eraser experiment. And if he says, I don't know, we'll just tell him, and then we'll move from there.
Well, that you're assuming. I wasn't mocking him. I was just saying there is no slit detector in the quantum eraser experiment.
What?
That's the point.
Did I say quantum eraser?
Yes.
Oh, bugger. Shit. Double slit experiment. If I said quantum eraser in the last 5 minutes, what I meant was double slit experiment. My bad. I'm trying to be careful with my words because of that criticism you had about 2 weeks ago, and I've ended up fucking it all up, and now I've ended up swearing. God, it's all going wrong. Anyway, let's try again. Do you know what the causal influencer is in the double slit experiment? Not the quantum eraser. That's just my accidental use of the wrong experiment. Bloody hellfire. Just say no so we can move on, Nathan, please.
Sorry, you're asking me about
The causal influencer.
What is the cause of the double split?
Yeah, the experiment. What's the cause? You've already given the effect, which is wave function collapse, when you said it went from the diffraction pattern down to 2 dots, as you described it. Fine, good enough, close enough. That's wave function collapse. That's the phenomena being studied. Yeah. What's the causal?
Light is the cause?
No. Say I don't know, please, God, so we can move on.
Is light the cause?
No.
Okay. I don't know.
Okay, that's fine. Knowledge.
Observation?
That wasn't your cue to keep bloody guessing. Me saying, can you just say I don't know so I can move on, doesn't mean I don't know followed by another 5 guesses. Bloody hell. Subtle is not your style, eh? Make it clear and bold. I'm about to tell you what the causal influence is while a colour commenter from my own bloody panel starts interrupting, making a larger gap between the bloody point and the original example. Thank you, whoever that was. Keep your trap shut. So you do not know the causal influencer in the double slit experiment, and we are basing this on you saying this is all based in the physical. Okay. Drum roll, finally. Hopefully no colour commentary while I try and get it across. The causal influencer is knowledge of which path the light went through. Knowing which slit the light went through. So is knowledge physical?
No.
Shocking. So
the double slit is proof of God?
You don't have to trample this profound moment. So, when seeking affirmation of the non-physical, the supernatural, I would describe what you not so concisely summarized earlier. When seeking out information from bloody Witsit. Now, if you want that, there is a path that you can take. The same path that offered you the technology to debate this stuff on. That would be quantum mechanics.
To count?
Pardon?
God can't be counted, though, right?
Spirit. Sorry. Knowledge? Where does knowledge start? I'll just answer because I can't be asked doing it for 20 minutes. A knower. But to have knowledge, you need a knower.
So you're the knower.
Where does the knower come into the beginning of existence then? So before we've got the heliocentric description of the Big Bang from Lemaitre, that's part of the ontological primitives, defying the first law of thermodynamics. Your alternative in the ontological primitives is an external entity to start this entire process. And the actualization, that's from probability to actualization, that's wave function collapse. And the causal influencer is knowledge. And the only way you can have knowledge is to have a knower. That's where it all begins.
Or are you saying God is the knower, or you are
the
the
penny
knower?
drops. So to start this process off, before we have any physicality, that would be the actualization of the light, no longer just a probability of where the light will be, it's actualized. To have that happen, for that to begin, the first thing that is necessitated is, before anything else, a knower, so that that knower can have knowledge. That's where it begins. AKA, it begins with God. Thank you for trampling the most important point.
Sorry. Is that the conclusion that scientists say? Or I mean, I respect that. I think you're right.
And
I agree.
I think.
Is that what they say?
No,
that the double split
you're asking me
proved?
whether or not it's science when I've just given you the example from a scientific validation with a causal influencer. You're saying this isn't science when I've just literally given you a description of a scientific validity based in knowledge. That was the cause and effect science. Hello. This is science. There is a God and I can prove it with science. That's what I just did. Like pulling teeth, but that's what I did.
Wow, I didn't know the double split proved God.
No, but you've been listening to Witzit's shite, haven't you? That's why it's irritating when we hear people like you babbling this crap. Because the validity for God, the ethereal, the supernatural that you're questing for, has been offered to you falsely by people talking about ether. Meanwhile, scientific validity that advanced humanity proves there is a God. Tell me there's nothing to your life now. Witzit didn't offer you this, we did. Let's get that absolutely cemented. What we have to offer versus the speculation and shite about air / what is it? The creator being ether that you can't define. That's what you get from charlatans. What we offer is scientific validity. What we get is trampled over and talked through when we give it. That's the respect we get. It's awesome. The respect we get offered for what we deliver is absolutely awesome, isn't it? That's the respect you've got.
Can I follow up?
You don't. You listen and you shut your mouth. Offer some fucking respect. Piss off back to... I don't want you, Nathan. Go back to your tossers offering you garbage that will offer you nothing in your life. Don't come here to disrespect me as I offer you something that's worth something. How dare you talk through me and ask for your opportunity to talk and respond? No! Have some bloody respect. Talking about...
Nathan, it is profound.
And there he goes again. He can't shut his stupid trap, can he? We're talking about the validity of God and you think it's just your opportunity to talk while I take breath. It is not. This is not subtle. I'd just prefer you say thank you, as opposed to ask for your opportunity to offer it, and still he interjects. Piss off. Go back to the tossers that have lied to you. Go back to them. Why are you asking us how valid Witzit shite is? Go ask him. Has he got an open door for you to stroll through and ask him these questions? No, he has not. So why are you wasting my time with these stupid questions? Ask Witzit and see what you get with your hippy-dippy garbage, man, when he leads you down some path of nonsense, as opposed to lead you to validity for God. And the only thing you've given me back is total disrespect, talking over me as I make my conclusions. Bloody outrageous. The respect you have for us is awesome, isn't it?
I do respect you.
Then shut up while I talk! You stupid, ignorant prick! If you haven't figured out now that Witzit's just leading you down a garden path, then what the hell are you doing here? Go and pester him, waste his bloody time. I apologise for interrupting every single member of this panel. The entire time, every single person on this panel that's spoken during their interaction with you, you've interrupted at the most important point. It's infuriating. And what we're offering you is gold.
It is a little bit.
And there he goes again. Well, I tell him how much what we have to offer is worth. And your interruption comes at exactly the point that it's worth me bloody muting him. Why am I getting so irritated with this prick as he talks through me? What we have to offer is valuable. What you have got and are asking us about from Witsit is worthless. Now, I'm going to tell you that with the absolute disdain I hold for the garbage you're parroting, as he still continues to interrupt me. I've had to close his frigging line because he can't stop after I've told him off and yelled at him. He still can't shut his stupid mouth, to the point where I've literally got to shut down the Discord line from his rumpusing. Yeah, I'm up my crescendo. This is the peak. This is the point that I point out that what I have to offer is of value. It's come from every single great mind on this panel, and the only thing you've got to offer isn't a thank you, it's to talk through the crescendo, the peak of every point that's been made to you. And I'm saying I'm sick of it. If you've got questions about Aether and garbage that comes from Witsit, go ask Witsit, so he can lead you down a path indefinitely, waste your life, and you can tell us at the end how empty you feel and how little it makes you feel about the world, which is what you've told us. We don't offer that.
Told you.
Yes, you did. That's correct.
He's just an auto babbler. He can't help it. He's just gonna talk. He's not even doing it to rumpus. It's just that he's getting so involved that he just can't stop himself. Even though he does sound very mellow when he does it.
Why have we got to be the police for this crap?
He's in there all the time, and when he comes here and hears something solid, he doesn't know how to respond.
Why have we got to police this crap? Why have we got to answer questions on the stupid nonsense that Witsit's come out with?
Can I give sincere thanks for explaining that?
Just answer
I
my
appreciate
question.
it.
Why have we got to answer this crap that you've been poisoned with? Why does it fall on us to give you first aid for this crap? You've sucked up this poison. Why the hell have I got to suck it out of your leg? What I'm saying is, if you've gone out into the jungle and got bitten by a snake, when everyone's told you don't go into the jungle, you'll get bitten by a snake, you've come back to us poisoned. And I'm asking, why is it now our responsibility to suck the poison out of all these people who've gone and been poisoned by Witsit?
Can I repeat just to try to show that I've understood what you taught me?
Why have we got to solve your Aether misunderstandings? Why have we got to understand it for you, to unpack it for you? I'm asking why we've got to suck the poison out that Witsit's put in people. Why does that fall on our door?
Didn't you make your show to help people understand the truth?
Yeah. So I'm saying when we're dealing with a worldwide mass epidemic of heliocentrism, why have I got to deal with a side door or a garbage from our own side? This is poison.
It's a very useful poison for heliocentrism, though.
There it is. Perfect. Over to you, John. Why would that be? Why would this be useful for heliocentrism? It's not like you're getting a gravity out of it.
Right. The incoherent dielectric acceleration. When you said what's holding gas down, that's what it's here for, my friend. It's so you can argue about the downward vector of gas.
Yeah, basically. Bob Nodell from day one has been talking about gravity being real. It bloody isn't. There is no gravity. But it is in a electric universe world of heliocentrism, which is where all this garbage has come from and crossed over into flat Earth, like we still need a gravity. No, electric universe ball-believing retards need a gravity, and that's what they've got for it. An incoherent dielectric acceleration. That's what they've got. That's electric universe on a ball. Why have we got to fight this crap off? This is not heliocentrism. It's electric universe at best.
Well, technically, it's not even electric universe, Nathan, because the likes of Ken Wheeler has never brought up dielectric acceleration. That's purely from Bob Nodell and Witsit and them. He never brought that up. He never heard of it until they said it to him. Even he has never claimed it. So they're a side, an offshoot of global electric universe into this arena, and they're pumping out complete and utter rubbish in this arena, and people are just drawn in hook, line, and sinker. What people really need to be asking themselves is, how come you're so easily drawn into complete and utter rubbish?
Yeah.
It's a personal question, not a question for you on your show.
Exactly. It's like me suddenly having to deal with ex-Scientologists. Like, well, yeah, but Scientology, like Aether, has got its roots in heliocentrism. Therefore, you've got to suck this poison out. No. We debunk people's claims on the nature of the world. And while I appreciate that your average Scientologist doesn't appreciate that their worldview is rooted in heliocentrism, it's just another offshoot of heliocentrism. But all of the damage that that group may cause to people isn't something that I'm going to deal with. I haven't pumped that poison in. It's not my responsibility to suck it back out again. Well, in the same respect, it's no different to dealing with Etherites, who've got a crazy notion from the electric universe that needs to be superimposed on a flat Earth when they're on their journey of discovery. Like, why am I having to suck this poison out?
Well, without the alternative.
Just very quickly, John, the Ethereans in our arena are the Scientologists of flat Earth. Thank you, John.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say, without the Ethereans asserting an incoherent dielectric acceleration, gravity would have stopped being an issue in this arena a long time ago.
Then it's controlled opposition. Then the only reason the Etherites are here is to keep gravity prevalent amongst flat earthers. Controlled opposition narrative, whether they know it or not, is irrelevant.
Can I follow up the double split proving a knower?
Can't do it twice. Can't do it twice. Can't be quiet twice.
So
it's split, dude.
Double split.
We're not in an ice cream parlor.
Fine. What of the double slit experiment, Nathan? Go ahead.
The double banana split experiment.
The wave collapse function as proof of a knower.
No, the establishment. No. The establishment of the cause of that effect. That's knowledge of which path causing wave function collapse.
Knowing the path of the light causes it to collapse.
Knowing
technically, it's the existence of the path of information.
Right, the existence and the attainability.
Yes, the existence and the attainability of path information causes light, which is prior to the acquisition of the information, diffracting. That is to say that it doesn't go through one slit and, as expected, hit directly behind it. That's the expected behavior. What actually happens is light... My fucking badge, you stupid cunt.
Hey, don't insult me.
Shut the fuck up! Do it again and you'll never come back, you stupid bastard. What's your malfunction? What is your problem? Are you retarded? Do you have a mental incapacity that stops you from blabbering your fucking gums while I'm talking?
It doesn't have to be light either. They've shown it with a number of different substances, so it doesn't have to be light.
Is that your intention? Is that why you are talking through obviously what was going to be the description of the acquisition of path information when describing diffraction patterns? That would be light not appearing where you expect it behind one slit. That's where I got to when you interrupted. Not the end of my statement. Now, Mr. Double Split, that doesn't even know the name of the experiment, this is not your opportunity to talk. Are you, this is not rhetorical, retarded? Do you have a mental disability?
Must be slow.
That's what I'm assuming. I'm asking, do you have a mental disability?
Apparently.
Not apparently. Have you been diagnosed with a mental disability, yes or no?
No.
Then you understand me when I say shut the fuck up.
Why the vitriol?
Because you keep fucking interrupting me like a total spastic.
Yeah,
Like
in
when
key
you think
moments
that
too.
the interruption's required. When I say that prior to acquisition of path information, you get a diffraction pattern. And as I start to describe what a diffraction pattern is, that is not the expected behavior. You fire light through a slit, it appears behind the slit. You feel, someone who is not mentally retarded, a normal human being, that is your time to interrupt. No, you're just going to piss me off royally. And I'm asking, is that your actual intention? Are you trying to piss me off by
No, it's not
interrupting?
my intention.
Then don't do it. Then when I'm in the middle of an obvious example of something you don't understand and can't even name correctly, that's not your opportunity to interrupt me. It is going to piss me off royally, so stop doing it. I've already got annoyed with you for doing it twice. This is the third time. I've pointed out that you've done it to every single member of the panel. But you still feel the need to do it? So, when I detailed diffraction, yeah, that is not the expected behaviour. You fire a light through a slit, you expect it to be appearing behind the slit. Oh, there's two of them? Well, it's going to appear behind one or other. No, that's not what you get. Single slit diffraction, same difference. Diffraction. This is the overall phenomena being studied when you talk about quantum mechanics. So, diffraction of light, it not behaving as expected. It's not actualized. It exists as a probability distribution. It might appear at point 1, but it might appear at point 7. It might appear at point 3. We don't know. We can only guess, and the guess we make is merely going to be a probability. However, upon acquisition of knowledge of which path the light went through, it actualizes on the photographic plate. It no longer exhibits wave-like behavior. It's not a wave anymore. It's actualized. You fire the light behind the left-hand slit. It appears behind the left-hand slit, exactly as you expect. No diffraction, no probability distribution. The actualization is caused by having a knowledge, or the knowledge being available in any shape, way, or form of which path the light went through. Then the light actualizes. Then you get what is described mathematically as wave function collapse. Let normal behavior, actual reality, resume, because we know which path it went through. We know. We need knowledge. To have knowledge is to be a knower. That's how this translates directly into the supernatural realm. Finally getting to the conclusion that you asked about when you told me about how empty the garbage ether from Witsit left you, and how this leads you to God. Now, I'd prefer at this point, having made the conclusion finally without interruption, that you merely thank us for setting you straight, sucking out the poison of ether that is definitely not a creator, and offering up scientific validity for that which I claim when demonstrating the proof of a creator. I thank you. You may speak.
Thank you. I sincerely
You're welcome.
appreciate it. It is kind of hard to take the cues of when to talk and not when you can't see the other
Let me enlighten
you're
you.
conversing with.
Unlike what I've just done, which is talk straight through the top of you, that is not the point to interrupt unless you have absolute justification in doing so, like I have. Yeah? So, in a reasonable discussion, unlike what I've just done, talking right through the middle of your statement isn't the right time to do that.
Or you could be like me and just get told to shut up all the time.
Can you shut up with the
Yeah,
colour
why,
commentary?
Neil? Why does that happen? Because it's rude. And this guy seriously can't be coming here now pretending that he's functioning in society and he doesn't know when he's being rude. Let's at least be genuine here, dude. And that kind of pretentious nonsense, pretending you're ignorant of how rude you've been, is a little galling.
What he did achieve is me getting my own video
I-
demonetized with 2 Fs and a C. But there we go, that's life.
And
Please
I
forgive
wasn't
me. I
giving color commentary. I was just asking if I could answer the question you asked because I knew the answer, but
No,
you
you
gave
can't.
the answer so great.
so following up on the answer that I'm very gracious you gave me about knowing the path. This knowledge of the path of the light is giving knowledge of God.
How can you have knowledge? What is knowledge?
Knowledge is acquisition of truth. I think that would be a good definition.
So, and
No,
if
that's the category within it. That's not what it is. What's the thing about
No.
knowledge? It's that it's known. There's a knower. You have knowledge, you have the knower of the knowledge.
It's information. Can't have information without a knower.
Yeah.
So there could be information that somebody doesn't understand. I mean, it could still be.
Well, let's test that. What name a language you don't speak?
All of them except English.
So if I was to look at you and say to you in Mandarin, "Look out, there's a tiger behind you," is that information?
Yes.
And that saved your life, that information right there, didn't it?
No, because I didn't understand it.
So you didn't know, you weren't a knower. You didn't know what that Mandarin meant.
No.
So for it to be information, it has to be transceived, if you will. It has to be an acquisition, and the information has to be understood.
And that's knowing.
Being a knower, which you would be if you spoke Mandarin, and it would save your life.
But it's still information when I don't speak Mandarin, but I just don't comprehend it or understand it.
And if there's only you and that Mandarin speaker and the tiger behind you, which you're unaware of, and you don't speak Mandarin, then no information has been transferred from one person to another.
So translate. It didn't translate to me.
Well, you just didn't have the information. It wasn't information because there wasn't a knower of the information.
It was information to a Mandarin speaker, but not to an English speaker.
But in my example, specifically, so that there wasn't a Mandarin speaker, I asked you which language you didn't speak. So it wasn't like I made the example and asked which language do you speak, because that wouldn't make the example very good. Point being, the process begins with a knower. For information to exist, there must be a knower. Otherwise, it isn't information.
So to expand that statement out, are you saying to know is to say you're God?
No. It means you can have an influence to a degree in controlled circumstances, like with the experiment. That's what experiments are. But you, when you acquire knowledge, can have a causal influence over life. But you being able to cause things in life isn't that profound, is it? However, knowledge of which path has led to much greater things in terms of our understanding of light behavior. That's advanced humanity in terms of computing and has a profound effect in terms of our understanding of where life begins, because it answers the ontological primitives in terms of which is the cause of life itself. Where does this world come to pass? How does it start? Well, either nature created everything, or an external entity, God, created everything. So you have to work your way through which is the answer to that question. When you come to nature poofing itself into existence, a la Lemaitre and the Big Bang, that's a violation of the laws of nature. Well, you can't have nature violating its own laws to create itself. That makes no sense, leaving you with only one option in the ontological primitives, backed up by the double slit experiment, when you understand that to have that outcome with the causal influencer of knowledge itself, knowledge of which path, there must be a knower.
Is this tied to I think, therefore I know?
That's Descartes. That's just a philosophical statement, which he came to after being asked how does he know he exists and doesn't just exist in a dream. And his answer was to say, I think, therefore I am. But that's a philosophical musing as opposed to a scientific validity.
So is knowing existing?
Now we're talking about Descartes, though, aren't we?
Yeah.
Why do you want to segue onto Descartes?
It just gave you science. Why are you going to philosophy?
We know when we have knowledge, and we, in this instance, is where everything begins when it comes to knowledge or information. To have information, you must have a knower.
Is information described as like orderly communication, or because we see order in nature, and we could say the orderer of all things is God. Language or information, in your analogy of Mandarin, is orderly information, but if it's not translated to me, I'm not a knower. So maybe that word is helping me understand
maybe
that it has to be true.
It was subtle because it was dropped in by Arwin and reiterated by John right in the middle of the discussion, which is to say, when I was saying the knowledge, it's the knowledge being acquirable at any stage. So if it doesn't matter if you personally have that knowledge, so long as at some stage the knowledge is accessible by someone who can understand it. So when you were like, well, it doesn't mean you poof out of existence because you're not speaking Mandarin, it just means you get eaten by a tiger, as opposed to reality ceases to exist. So the fact that the knowledge is acquirable at any stage. So in terms of the way the double slit can be qualified in this is, if you're recording the information from the double slit, so you don't actually observe this yourself, you have a computer compile the information which slit the light traverses. Now, upon doing that and recording the information on a hard drive, the hard drive is taken away and locked up somewhere, accessible at some later date. Well, the outcome of that experiment is that you got wave function collapse. Yeah? You know which path the light went through. It's contained within that hard drive and is accessible. Now, in that scenario, at some point the hard drive's accessible, right? Now, let's say for the sake of argument that in the same exact setting, you set and forget the experiment, but you get a diffraction pattern. You go, whoa, this doesn't make any sense. We did this experiment last week, and it didn't have a diffraction pattern. But the guy who's doing it goes, oh, okay, well, I've just got to follow protocol. He gets the hard drive, takes it away to the same storage facility and locks it up, like he did the last week. But that night, that building burns down, right? And nobody will ever get to access the information for that particular experiment. That the guy happened to stroll in while it was in situ and see that there was a diffraction pattern. But he went, oh, that looks weird. It's not like it normally looks like that. Takes the hard drive, goes and puts it in an office. At that point, the information's available, right? But it burnt down later that day. So at no point was the accessible information ever looked at, and at that stage, it's burnt down and never accessible again. Ergo, before the building burnt down, you still got a diffraction pattern, because there was never going to be a point that the information was accessible. I'll let your mind wrap your head around that. That was not a bad little analogy for the delayed choice, was it? That's not bad. Well done, Nathan.
You're a little rough around the edges.
I
but
know. Just say that was good and just give me a compliment. Bugger off.
So destruction of knowledge removes knowledge.
If the information's never accessible by a knower, then it was never information to begin with.
That seems to me like if the tree fell down in the forest and nobody heard it, then did it really fall?
I love it. I love it. So the answer...
No.
Not exactly.
No.
You go ahead, Kiwi. You take this moment.
You took my thunder there because you know I like that. So if a tree falls in the woods and no one's around, if a tree falls in the woods and nobody's around, does it make a sound? The answer's no, and there is no friggin' tree.
The answer is there is no tree. How very Matrix. If there is no information about the tree, then the tree doesn't exist. If the tree is known to exist and always has known to be in existence, then that tree exists because we have knowledge of the tree. But at the edges of the fringes of reality where trees are yet to be formed, if no one knows there's a tree and no one knows whether or not there's a branch falling off it, then there is no tree.
Would this be a summary then that knowledge is divine?
Knowledge is the arbiter of our reality.
I would say the information is the ontological basement of reality. Information.
Much more eloquent.
But you can't have information without a knower. So it's an incestuous feedback loop between those two.
Perfect. Yeah.
So the feedback loop is the being translated to the knower. I think that's where Aether comes in, that people try to explain it.
Maybe.
What's Aether?
What's it?
Or for me, it would be spirit or God.
But it isn't. It's knowledge and knowers. We just explained this to you. Is there any scientific...
Knowledge and knowers.
Okay, it's no worries. So let's just weigh up the standards. So we've explained how you've got to have knowledge, and we've offered a scientific validity that definitely adheres to the scientific method, and in terms of its fruitfulness, has advanced humanity greatly. That's our standard for a demonstration of, in this instance, knowledge of which path collapses a wave function. That means that probability distribution is negated by having knowledge of which path the light traversed. Or, to make it more complete, the knowledge being attainable at any stage by anybody. That knowledge is our scientific validity when we discuss the grandiose nature of things like the creation of our world, and juxtapose that with the ontological primitives and our opponents on the heliocentric side with the Matrix Big Bang. Now, given that that's our standard, let's just hear the Witsit/Globebusters Aether standard for how that might be in some way causally linked to a creator, God, our existence. Just give me anything that's a standard to...
I'm not speaking for them.
Just the standard for Aether
so
is...
the word
by contrast, the standard for Aether is... what?
So let's just say there is none.
No.
Acquisition, though, is something that you brought up, or the feedback loop. There's this, I'm going to say, translation between the information and the knower. Does that require a medium, or
what? To convey information, does the conveyance of information need Aether? That's what you're asking, right?
So the information is the medium?
Why are you trying to
some-
turn? Is it just that everything that's describing anything fundamental in the world is going to be ascribed backwards to ether? So we've just described knowledge of which path causing wave function collapse. Well, does that need ether? Is that really? I mean, it sounds like you're brainwashed.
No, I said medium.
Does it need a
So
medium?
the medi-
Okay, just listen to the question that you're asking. Does knowledge of which path causing wave function collapse need ether as a medium? No,
I
it
didn't
doesn't.
say ether.
No. A medium because ether's your general topic whilst you've been here.
No, let's
Yes,
just forget
yes.
ether because
No, let's
that's
not.
not
Let's
helpful.
focus on the fact that we're juxtaposing the garbage that comes from Globebusters, who peddle this crap about ether, and how it has
No.
absolutely zero scientific validity whatsoever. It isn't even defined, and then contrast that with knowledge of which path causing wave function collapse. That's the I was about to do it again. That's the double slit experiment and its scientific validity leading you to God. That's the two different standards. That's what I'm juxtaposing. Not let's forget about how crap the standard for ether is. No. Let's really highlight it after we've made great efforts to point out how useful the scientific validity standard that we offer is in comparison to Go. What's ether got by comparison? What you got?
But let's focus
hold on a second. Hold on a second, guy.
one narrow
Hold on.
aspect of
Hold
your
on a second.
description, which is very good: the information and the knower. So,
Can you
in
hear
your
me
analogy
speaking?
of
Probably
the
not.
Mandarin, sorry.
He's
Can you
ignoring
hear me
me
speaking?
completely, QE, so your interruption's going on deaf ears. I've asked him to give me what he's got from anywhere. I've named a few people that give us garbage about ether, and I've said, look, here's our standard: scientific validity, cause and effect reasoning, science for cause and effect when it comes to knowledge of which path in the double slit experiment. That's what I've given. That's our standard. I've linked that to God. Negating your emptiness. Now I'm saying, give us what ether's got. What's their standard by comparison? And you've started waffling on something that doesn't answer that question. Then QE started interrupting.
I interrupted because he did make a good point. He had a good question that went unanswered. Does information need a medium of conveyance? The answer is yes, an agreed upon medium of conveyance. So what does that do for you?
You need to expand on what that is, because I think that's the point that's missing, this comprehension that we're working with the supernatural here. And it's that supernatural effect that has an effect in the real world. It's the supernatural knowledge that affects whether or not there's a wave function collapse or not. Do you get that, Nathan, in Discord?
Yeah, thank you. It is a profound thought. I'm sorry about all the waffling on, but can I focus in on, and
Well, let me
he did
keep
bring it up,
leading
that
you. Just let me keep leading you, because what QE interrupted with is the medium. Yeah?
the agreement is the medium?
QE interrupted to tell you that there is a
of-
medium required, and QE's trying to convey to you that the medium has to be agreed upon. There will be a medium to convey information from one person to another, and in the example I gave, the medium was a hard drive, or a piece of paper, or verbal language when I tell you there's a tiger behind you. There's a medium that's going to be agreed upon and understood between both parties, but the medium isn't necessarily going to be a medium of ether. In fact, it definitely won't be.
Like sign language between two deaf people, or somebody who speaks sign language to another
Or a
person
multitude
that's
of
deaf.
other examples, D. Yes, indeed.
So medium is supernatural?
No.
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 Define medium.
Information is supernatural.
Yeah, not the medium of conveyance. Correct.
Piece of paper you write something down isn't supernatural. The understanding that you have, if you're transceiving, writing notes back and forth, yeah, the information itself, what you understand to be written down on that paper once agreed upon the conveyance, the medium, that's supernatural. You can't give it a weight, doesn't have a calorie value, doesn't have a spin rate, it's supernatural by nature. That's the information itself.
They're gonna tie that medium in with ether.
No, because Nathan's distinguishing and putting it down correctly. So there's no confusion here. It's we're getting
somewhere.
Up
We're getting to
holy shit.
We're getting to ink and paper, aren't we? I know where this is going.
No, well, let me. If I recorded the results of the double strawberry, kumquat, strawberry, yeah, and that information was there, then the knower needs to know that strawberry means this slit, kumquat means that. That's the supernatural thing. It's the understanding, the knowledge of what that information means. That's what you're transferring, not the physical word itself.
Like Paul Revere and the Patriots, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Paul Revere had to get with the Patriots and say, "Hey, listen, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to send 1 or 2 lights from the old church people," right? But if the Patriots didn't know that Paul was going to do that, Paul never communicated that information to them, then the Patriots would have no idea. The Patriots would be out there, and then maybe one of them would see, if they were lucky, maybe one light, right? But they wouldn't know what that meant, right? Because there wasn't an agreed upon medium and a cipher for the information.
Right, it'd be like you speaking in Mandarin to someone with a tiger behind them.
Are you rubbing it into the British guys over there?
No, it's a good example. He's talking about the conveyance because it's an example of the medium, right? So when you talk about medium, in this instance, the important detail in the story with Paul Revere is about the light, the code, the cipher. If they don't understand that, they haven't got the information. It's not been agreed upon. But it doesn't matter if it's one flash or one smoke signal or whatever it is that they agree upon. The information, the aspect that's communicated, is supernatural. The light's got a chemical structure and a value and all the rest of it, but the information doesn't.
Nathan, I got a question. Are smoke signals immediate transceiving of
It can be.
Transceiving just means going back and forth. So if you've got a fire and I've got a fire and we're talking back and forth, and my information alters based on the information you give me, that's transceiving, if you will. Then yeah, we can transceive with smoke signals.
So it's possible Eratosthenes did that. Okay, thank you.
Therefore, Aristophanes' 500 stadia via smoke signals possible. Okay, yes, check.
Just watch my information presentation. Watch the information presentation. I'd go through this step by step. How many times I do that?
If that was true, did Eratosthenes think the British are coming?
Oh, brother.
No, but that's the point. Do you understand? It's the same signal, but it's got a completely different meaning. It's not the language, it's not the word. It's what the two people understand the meaning is. The supernatural conveyance.
They agreed upon it beforehand.
Right. And if they agree upon it and then someone alters it, that won't work either. So in the Stadia example with smoke signals, if Asif the coffee boy goes over to Alexandria, is it Alexandria he goes to? Where does he go?
He goes to Cyan.
He goes to Cyan. Okay, fine. He's in Cyan, and they've agreed upon, 2 smoke signals means it's lunchtime here in Cyan, right? And instead, he's really cleverly figured out a way of making a giant dick in smoke, and he releases that instead and just chuckles. Well, then Aristophanes isn't going to know what's going on in Cyan, is he? Because they haven't used the agreed upon cipher. Just sees a giant smoke dick.
Oh, brother.
It's very simple, right?
They also had to have the history, right? And the agreement.
Just 1 second.
Like the.
Just 1 second. We're trying to let that smoke dick image settle in the audience's mind. What are you doing?
A smoke dick's concrete nouns.
1 second. 1 second.
Gee, you're off the rails, man.
Yeah, I'm going to say it. 1 second. The medium of conveyance in China is Chinese.
Coefficient and the existing data.
It's a push bike.
No, it's Mandarin in
What, the
certain parts
medium
of
of
China.
no, all the Chinese have bikes. That's the medium of conveyance.
No, not that type of conveyance.
I think.
Hey Neil. Hey Neil, you remember Pig Latin? The girls used to do that in school when we grew up. Remember the Pig Latin? You don't remember that, do you?
Fei Uye Eri May Akshay.
There you go. Yep. Yep. I didn't know what the hell they were talking about.
Now we bring the kooks out.
What the hell was that?
That was Brooklyn Pig Latin that the girls used to speak.
I know what it was. I'm curious as to what freaking relevance it had to anything else that was going off in the
Because
room.
we're talking about mediums of
Another
conveyance, so it's
example,
like talking
Adam.
about understanding the hello. It's like talking about understanding the cipher of Cockney rhyming slang. When we talk about these septics.
What? So to boil it down for information, you need a transmitter and receiver, right? And they must agree on the medium of conveyance, the convention, and meaning.
I'm glad we cleared that up.
Does there also have to be a history? Because, like, was brought up in some of the analogies, the hard drive, the sheet of paper.
I got it now, D-Rose. Apologies.
Yeah, there has to be a history of you meeting with them prior. Yes.
I forgive you, Adam.
Oh,
very Christian of you, that.
So, and another important point. Another important point. It doesn't have to be light either in the double split. It could be anything. They've done it with a number of different things. So, light is basically arbitrary. Everything reacts the same way.
Buckyballs.
Buckyballs is one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So our physical reality is dictated by knowledge or information, and knowledge requiring a knower. Yeah. Information dictates
It
our
seems
reality.
like that's just half of the equation, though.
How do you mean half the equation?
So there has to be agreed upon history and a translation or acquisition of the information.
Yeah.
So
and
between who?
Anybody and anybody. It doesn't have to be between two parties. When we describe the tree example, your knowledge of the tree's existence in that example is enough. There hasn't got to be a communication between two parties. You just know that there's a tree there on the fringes of reality where it makes no sound.
Hold on. I never got that, because if a tree falls in the woods and there's a recording of it, then there was a tree and it did make a noise.
Yeah, but then you've got information, haven't you?
Regardless if I'm not there, it's still going to make a noise.
Neil, so what you're saying is you have information on it because you've got a recording, correct?
What if I wasn't there with a recording? You're going to tell me that it didn't
Then there isn't
happen?
any information, is there, Neil?
What tree are you talking about, Neil?
Oh, man, there's so many trees down in the woods.
Yeah? But you're talking about one you've never seen.
Yeah. You're not talking about the tree down the road in the woods in physical reality. That tree is absolutely manifest, and there's so many people who know that tree is real. It's never just going to poof out of existence, nor will anything else. But when I say on the fringes of reality, we're talking about at the ends of the earth, talking about a tree in a hypothetical setting. And that tree in a hypothetical setting, if it makes a sound or not, when it only exists if you have information on it to begin with. It only becomes a tree once you know, that's knowledge, that it's a tree and it's there. Well, when we talk about it...
Oh, okay. I got it.
So when we talk about it in a hypothetical setting, whether or not someone's there or not, you're taking a step away from the example where you say, well, if I record it, we'll acquire some knowledge on it. But that's a tree that's in physical reality that you might actually go out and physically get a recording of.
So Nathan, if you hear a tree fall and see a tree fall in the forest, and I don't see or hear it, does that mean it didn't happen?
No. Any knowledge is knowledge. I mean, information, when there's a knower involved and the knower has it, they don't have to pass that information on to another party. Ever. It's still the same information.
I always found that analogy totally selfish from a human point of view. It's like,
me too.
If a tree falls, it will make a noise. You know, just because nobody was there to see it or hear it, that doesn't mean it didn't fall and noise didn't happen. To me, that made no sense ever. It never made any sense. It's
That's
like,
what I'm saying, Brian.
Yeah, exactly. To me, it was akin to people telling me about how a jaguar sees. How the hell would you know? Do you know what I mean? It's to me, it's like a human ego more than nothing else.
How'd you get knowledge on anything? Like the first gynecologist. Well, I don't know, but I'll have a bloody good look at it for you.
Do you know that when my daughter was born, the freaking gynecologist takes a look as she's checking the mother of my daughter, looks up at her and says, "Oh, are you a redhead?" I wanted to freaking rip his lungs right out of his chest. He had to run out of there so quick.
Presumably just pointing out that the head's coming out and it's got red hair, right?
No, this is it. She went in for prenatal, and he was checking her because she wasn't ready to give birth. Okay? Baby wasn't even born yet. And this is what this guy says. "Oh, you a redhead?" I was taken so off guard, and then I realized, I said, if you don't leave this room in 2 seconds, my hands are going to be around your freaking throat, and then we're going to see if your blood is red.
Okay, Neil. Jolly good.
That's the correct response.
Did you just tie knowledge into being born?
No, I tied knowledge that if this guy wisecracked one more time, he would be dead.
Yeah, he comes to this guy through an agreed upon medium that this guy was to leave the room.
Yes, non-verbal communication can be the medium. We're round out, looks like it. With that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and Jupiter's panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!